getting currently is not giving you everything. And you're going to learn a few terms. You're going to learn a few things that might make sense, like this NCOV part right here. See NCOV. All right. While I'm waiting on some people to get into the room, I will explain what that is. 2019, because it came out in December, this disease was actually this virus was actually contracted and discovered to be a new virus. The N right here in NCOV, this is the name of it. It's 2019-N. N is for novel. Okay, so this is doctor speak that you may not know, but you were fixing to get educated. The N is for novel. If somebody says, "Hey, that's a novel idea," that means it's a new, unheard of, a different way of thinking. I appreciate the like. I just got here. Yeah, come on in, people. N is for new or novel. Just think it's actually novel, NOVEL, but you can think new. All right, COV. All right, it's a coronavirus. All right, of all of the known coronaviruses, I believe they won't even call the first one that they encountered to be such a problem. These are animal, zoological. Okay, zoo, zoo, I guess you could. There's a word for it that's similar to zoological. That's doctor speak. I'm going to leave you with zoological. You could say um, that they basically come from animals. Okay, so a coronavirus um, is a virus that normally we don't get. Normally it's passed either from a dog to another dog, or from the civet rat that they have in China that they eat over there. Not until well, till lately they were supposed to be illegal, but guess what? They found them down there in Wuhan in the market, and they had video of it. So civet cats, civet rats, whatever you want to call their civet cats. They're long. They look similar to a ferret, okay, or some type of a weasel, but it's more of a rat. Anyway, they sell rats down there. They sell snakes down there. They have chickens and pigs, all kinds of things that are usually that place is not known for pork. It's more of a fish and snake and wild animal market. And some of those people, well, their grandmother ate this, and they eat bats and stuff too, but they don't put them in the market, I don't believe. Here's the problem. Okay, back to the coronavirus, to the N being novel and COV, uh, the coronavirus part. Okay, here's the problem. When you put animals together, they don't just transmit to each other. If one bites another one and there is blood that passes from one animal to another animal, if one of them has that virus, it can get into the next animal where it will mutate. Okay, there's a problem with for this reason, because if it ever got into humans, it could be so deadly, and that's why China just lost I don't know how many million pigs. I wrote it down. I'll give you in the list down below in the comments. I'll put it in the not the comments, the description of this video. How many millions of pigs? It was one quarter, 25% of the entire global amount of population of pigs, swine on the planet died. China even opened up provinces that they said these are reserved for wildlands, and started growing, harvesting. I'm sorry, they started raising pigs there. Okay, putting pig farms out there because they need the pork, and because they have to keep it away from the area where those other pigs were for that swine flu they had. Now, they even said if that ever jumps to humans, we are in big trouble. Okay, so back to where we were talking about animals. Um, SARS was actually caused by a bat that bit a civet cat, and the bat had a bat disease. The DNA is in the strain. They can tell that. They can tell it by a mock-up, and this one is a little different. So a bat bit a civet cat. So they outlawed all civet cats, even though those people harken back to the days when their grandmother cooked it for them, and they want the taste of it, so they continue to have it. Okay, fine. So the civet cat was outlawed but was found in this place again, but it's not the civet cat this time. But that civet cat caused from the disease that came from the bat and mutated and added to a disease that the civet cat had in it, and then that a human that ate that meat without it being even cooked fully, okay, contracted the disease that is now able to be transferred from human to human, and that's called SARS, SARS. This is like a cousin of SARS, sort of, because it's a coronavirus, but it's not from the civet cat. Now, the other one was MERS. That was over in the Middle East. That was where a couple of different animals got together, and it came from camels to people, likely drinking the milk, because yes, camels make milk, they eat the meat, whatever they do with them. They consume camels, okay, and they're around within close proximity to them also. So just being in proximity to these animals, and they lick your face and all that crap, you wind up with whatever disease the camel had. Now that camel had a disease that had mutated from something else. All right, and here's the problem. And if you go, and I'll say this too, also, go ahead and let's talk about the Spanish flu real quick. The Spanish flu did not come from Spain. It came from likely a farmer that was in the U.S. who enlisted in the military. He had animals that were close together that were different types of animals, and he had them too close together. They cross infected each other, and then he got infected, okay? But the reason they call it the Spanish flu is because Spain was the only one honest enough to give death toll numbers. While we were fighting a war from, what was it, 1918 all through the, up to, until past 1920. 1920 was the height of it, the height part of it, of the disease. Even after World War One, all of the countries involved in World War One had a problem with Spanish flu. It killed, I want to say, 3% of the population then. This one is killing 3% of the infected. Okay, but it's going to get higher than that, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But it's not going to be pretty, even if it's 3% of 7.5 billion people on the planet. We're talking about 3 million people dying. So let's go back to the Spanish flu for just a second to understand that that came from animals also. They know it because they've mapped it. They have a blueprint also of Spanish flu. They can recognize it. It would be, the first one that is known to have affected man that we have in history. And it changed 3 different times. This one will do the same. Okay, it mutated 3 times. There were 3 waves of it. Now, back in those wars, while we were fighting wars, Spain was honest and gave their numbers. They were neutral, and so they gave the numbers on the flu that was killing people. Our people were in the trenches. The problem is, all of them were in the trenches. All of them were entrenched. There was water there. There was bad living conditions. It was cold. The weakened immune systems had a lot to do with it. There was trench warfare. Their socks were wet until they decided they figured out, a different way to do that. They were getting gangrene and fighting other diseases, so that compromised their immune system, and they became more susceptible to the death from the pneumonia, the water in their lungs, and they can't breathe. And there weren't oxygen tents out there. They didn't have doctors working on them around the clock trying to keep them alive. The reason we don't have a higher death rate so far, even in this small, 11 million people city, is because they are giving such good care to those people. All right. And they're not enclosed in such a closed environment like a dug pit of a trench, okay, or in a foxhole with somebody else. So once you understand how that worked, the death toll on them became higher because it came in 3 waves. This virus, they're lying and saying that it's stable. It will mutate at least 2 or 3 different times, depending on the people that it's in. There's another problem. Okay, so if you look at what happened in the war years where we had Spanish flu, and I mean people from England, people from every country had it. Matter of fact, that's where that song comes from. Ring Around the Rosie, Pocket Full of Posies. They put flowers, posies, in these gas masks, well, it wasn't gas masks, it was a full-on breather thing. And they put it in the animals so they wouldn't smell the stench of the dead people when they were going in to help them. Even the doctors and nurses wore them. Now they're wearing masks over there, but they found out it's not enough, and they get it anyways, and they're in a full, not an SCBA suit, there's a different name for it. I was in a different kind of breather for a taker. I understand, though, what it's used for, but those are taped up. Okay. but they're getting it anyways. All right. So the ring around Rosie's thing was to keep the children occupied when they pulled the dead in carts down the street and the stench of the dead, and to keep them so they wouldn't look at it and be horrified and it scar them for life, they put roses or posies, these flowers, stuffed it in their pockets and in their shirt pockets so they wouldn't smell the dead. And then they made a game of it and they said, ring around the rosies and we all fall down. They would do that in the front yard when they would see them come by. They would keep the children busy, keep their minds busy. Okay? You should learn from that when you go back to say that, okay, these people were wearing those masks then to try to stay alive. Okay? And that is what it takes if you want to live through this. Now, they've made it a law that over in China right now, in Wuhan and in other cities, it's already hit Beijing. Singapore is now confirmed. They want to say the guy in Australia, by the way, that he was negative for it, but they're still watching him because they think it was. So if he's out in the public right now, but there's flights that go there every day. All right, back to the mask thing. Right now, it's a law in China, you have to wear a mask, okay, in those affected cities, maybe even in all of China. They're all wearing these paper masks that did not work with the health officials. Now, they were in closer proximity, but it depends on where they work, these people work, and how close they are to people. Because even the screeners, by the way, at the airport do not work. I'm not going to say it's a joke. It will catch someone who's full on got fever, but this problem is with this disease is it has a 4-day, depending on your immune system, your immunity, your immune system, it has a 4-day to 10 or 12-day incubation period. I need a drink here, water and my coffee. So incubation period is when it's in your body and you show no signs, but it's growing within you, and then you get a fever later when your body catches up and wants to rise your temperature to kill the virus that's inside your body attacking you, right? Mm-hmm. No scanner is going to catch you. You stand a better chance of setting off one of those scanners if you are running to the terminal to catch your flight or running from your flight, and you have raised your temperature yourself. You stand a better chance of setting them off that way than someone who has it within their body and they have not shown signs yet because they've contracted it within however many days and it has not matured. Okay. So now back to the masks. I believe we'll be wearing those in the United States soon. I believe that there's lots of things going to happen soon. And they moved the doomsday clock to 100 seconds before midnight. If you don't believe me, I'm going to show you in a minute, okay? Okay, so the doomsday clock has to do with imminent death of the entire human race. Okay, that could be from nuclear war, from pestilence, from famine, from all kinds of reasons. The reason they did it, I'm pretty sure, is because this Wuhan virus, okay? And I mean, there are nuclear subs from Russia off the coast. I've shown that video. I said they should move the doomsday clock. I didn't say 100 seconds to midnight. Okay, that should be very alarming. Okay, this may be the closest. I think it is the closest. This is 70 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and say it. I haven't even researched it. This is the closest we've ever been to the human annihilation of the human population on this planet. So, kind of important. Audios, is it that? You know what? You're right. You're right. I've got it the wrong way. Let's give you a different view where the mic's up here. Am I going to have to go over everything again? I don't know. Did you hear it at all? That's the question. So now the camera will move here. Back to that. That's where we're at here. And I'm bringing to you this from a cigar box. The reason why is I can bring you better news from this cigar box than you're seeing on the news. So like I was saying, and I will go over a few things. They moved the clock to 100 seconds to midnight. Okay, it's good now. Okay, I hope you could hear anything I was saying before. I may have to redo part of this video in a different one. It doesn't matter. I'm going to do another one later because this is important stuff. It needs to get out. You will be wearing masks in the United States. You will be wearing those face masks. I guarantee it'll come here. They've even said in UK that they expect it to be in the UK. All right. The doctors that have worn masks
it wasn't enough, and one patient gave 15 of the doctors, I'm sorry, let's just say this correctly so I don't get beat up about it. I believe it was one or two doctors, four nurses, and seven other people, something like that, this disease, and it's survival of the fittest. There's no cure. Okay, I'm going to give you a little breakdown of this. They had SARS and MERS, like I talked about, for 17 years now. They have not found a cure for those. The only thing that works is not getting it or not dying from it. So, what will this disease do? Well, I'm going to tell you, your future is going to change, people. I'm telling you, this is the truth. Your future is going to change. Um, you will live differently. You will be not so close to people when you talk to them. You'll be wearing masks. This will be after it hits this country. But it's also going to likely eradicate a lot of diseases. AIDS that actually hurts people's immune system, AIDS will be eradicated. Um, let's see. Tuberculosis will be eradicated. So AIDS will be eradicated, tuberculosis will be eradicated. I would say there will be no more, when I say eradicated, understand they still have the Spanish flu. It still exists. They have it at the CDC in Georgia, in Atlanta. They also have it in a few other places, and they actually found it when they were waxing and cutting into the wax of a military base where people had this disease. It was within the wax and still live and viable and able to be brought back. That's a scary thought, right? That Spanish flu. Well, here's the thing. You may have an immunity to that. You won't have an immunity to this. No one will. It never existed before on the planet, and it's snake DNA. Okay? Are you ready to get your head wrapped around that? Okay, first I'm going to tell you about the doomsday clock. Like I said, it's moved to 100 seconds to midnight. I'll show you the video on that in a minute. And the doctors over there, one doctor went there to help, and he says, you know what? This is my research field. I worked on the SARS case. I worked on this before in a few other cases, and he had knowledge, and he was a doctor, and he wanted to go and help. He went to the Wuhan province to help. He stayed there, and after how many days it was, he realized that there's not a I'll say dang, thing that he can do about it, and he left, people. This has to run its course. I'm telling you this. The only thing they can do for you is put you in an oxygen-rich environment, oxygen tent. They can create a room that sucks in air from one side and blows it out the other, which is a negative pressure room. Then they can give you antibiotics, triple antibiotics. They can give you whatever kind of antibiotics. There's actually one that's a cocktail of a lot of them. And that's that, and keeping you on a saline solution is the only thing that they can do for you. There is nothing they can do to cure this virus. People are now putting money into stocks in companies that have certain virus things. They're saying that one is a nanoparticulate type of thing that has not been used in human trials yet, but they're looking to dump it into some people. I'm telling you, there's no cure for MERS, which was out of camels out in the Middle East. It was cross-contaminated from a couple animals and given to human transfer. These are zoological type diseases for animals. Like I said, the N is for novel, and COV is coronavirus. That's an animal strain. So they found snake DNA in this one, but I'll get back to the other one. That was MERS over there with camels. It's SARS that they had a problem with out of China, out of this same place here that was coming from civet cats. Bats bit the civet cat, okay, a bat, or somehow blood was passed from a bat to a civet cat. Then the civet cat, because I don't think they hunt them, but I know the snakes do. The civet cat then, with a disease within itself, okay, it takes a perfect storm to make this even happen, people. It's a nightmare, but it happens if you put animals together. So different species in the wild. And so the civet cat had its own disease, and those two diseases merged and created a new disease. Then that civet cat was eaten by someone that bought it at the market, and it was undercooked. Perfect storm had to be, right? So then this person had a weaker immune system and probably had a pneumonia of their own that it bonded to, and then that created SARS. Okay, now that is a coronavirus. This coronavirus comes from, they say they've already DNA mapped it, and Chinese didn't know what to do, so they just put it out there on the internet and said, this is a mapping of the DNA of this virus. Figure it out, people. Good luck. What people did is they looked at it and they broke it down into its molecular structure, and they looked at its signature genomes, and they said, okay, this is snake DNA. So, and bat DNA. So a bat, okay, this is the other way around. The snake ate the bat. They hunt them. There's two kind of poisonous snakes that they say are good for this or that in their culture. I don't know if it's yin or yang kind of thing, but whatever it is, it's good for one or the other. And eat this snake, and you'll be a better whatever. Okay, it's part of their medicine. Okay, so they ate that undercooked snake. It would have taken that the blood from the undercooked snake that had its own disease and its own DNA within that disease. So it mutated in the snake from the bat, went from the bat to the snake to a human. Now that human, it bonded with something within him, and now it can be passed from human to human. And it's airborne. All right, everybody over there is wearing masks. They are not protected from it, and the nurses are crying and saying that, look, our families are telling us that we're telling our families, look, everything is okay, we have protective wear, but really we're lying to them, and we're upset, and we are scared, and we're seeing death every day, people coming in here just waiting to die. There's nothing we can do for them except for to give them oxygen, try to get the water out of the lungs with that, to give them oxygen, and also to give them saline solution, and like I was saying, put them in a one way. But here's the problem: all of those beds are full now, and they're overwhelmed, and all of the people that are helping out are coming down with the disease, even though they suit up. Okay, I'm not saying it gets through the suit. I'm saying that protective measures in between the suit and maybe another negative pressure room or a washdown room is not happening before they get out of them. So they're off duty and they're within the hospital, and it's likely in the ventilation system and the air conditioning in the hospital. So transmitted room to room. So if you go to the hospital without it, you might come out with it. These, I'm telling you, people, this is not a lie. They moved the doomsday clock. All right. So these nurses, and they're needing more and more, are getting sick, and they're crying about it because they're upset and scared. They're like, our job, and we're trying to do our job and trying to help people. The special rooms that they've set up for these people are all taken, and the hospitals are overwhelmed, and that's why the doctors there have been saying, even though the government doesn't want them to say anything, they're like, well, we might die from this anyhow. We're going to tell the truth. They're saying that the first numbers I saw were 1,720. This was almost day, started in January, about the second weekend. Okay, which we call day one from the first patient zero. I was seeing numbers of 1,720 something. They were putting out numbers of 100. Okay, which lowers the death rate. It's actually good news if they give us the truth, right? It lowers the percentage of people that die from it if you just give us the true numbers of people that are infected. And then the true numbers that have died are not that many. However, it's still going to be huge amount of death toll, and they're blaming some of the deaths, saying, oh, well, they already had, something wrong with them. They had a previous condition. They want to say previous condition. They don't want to say what. So they're not talking even HIV. They're not even talking tuberculosis. They're just saying, well, an existing condition could be a heart condition. If you ever had a heart attack and been fixed up, well, you've got a pre-existing condition that you might not live through this stuff. There's all these reasons they're going to blame it on. Just telling you that this virus is going to mutate about 3 times before it's over with, just like the Spanish flu. Now, back to what's really going on is they're in suits, they're dying anyways, but they're in real close proximity in a room, even for a few seconds, with this patient zero, and he got 15 people that were nurses and doctors and staff. They all got infected by one guy. Okay, he's a super spreader. There are these super spreaders, but it's not just him. Don't blame it on that guy. It's all of them. Now, it takes 2 weeks to notice it. The screeners in the airport are not going to work, and like I said, you have a better chance of making the screener go off the detector of heat that's on your forehead when you walk by. Or even if they have a laser gun or just a video of it, you'll be the hot guy that just ran from your plane. And you're more likely to set it off than somebody that's got the virus within them, but has the people who are nurses, who are crying, who are saying, we're telling our families this, but it's not true. The doctors are saying the true numbers, like back to the true numbers. Sorry, I got off the topic. True numbers are, at first it was 1,720 when they were saying 100 and something. Then it was about 2,000 to 3,000 when they were saying 300 something. Now it's 400 something. They're saying it's 6,000 plus. This was last night before midnight, 11 o'clock last night when I put it up on the internet. 6,000 plus. Right now it could be 8,000 to 10,000. It's already in all these other major cities. I want to say Beijing, definitely Wuhan. Wuhan is 11 million people. They're all going to get it. They may not all die from it. About 3% of 11 million, you do the math, that's how many's going to die. Pre-existing condition, my tail. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to look up this video real quick. I've got it on a playlist. I'm going to show you what's going on with that. I'll also show you first I'll show you the doomsday clock, because I can't make this stuff up. I was actually asking for them to move the doomsday clock back when I told about the threat before, with the nuclear subs being closer than Cuba even was. So let's just I'll find this real quick, and I will let you watch the doomsday clock. Then you can watch the nurses crying their eyes out, saying that they've been lying to their people. And then let's see here. Let's see if I can find this real quick. Doomsday clock, it's 100 second, and let's see what we got here.
Today, the bulletin of the atomic scientist moves the hands of the doomsday clock. It is 100 seconds to midnight.
Okay, let me just go back on this, and then I'll put it in here. And understand, people, if they call it the atomic doomsday clock, but it was come up with by some nuclear scientists' wives that decided that it would be a good idea to do this. And the truth of this is that it's monitoring not just nuclear, but it's monitoring all types of reasons that would end mankind. And I'm going to zoom in on this if I can and try not to ruin the whole picture. Here's why, because I'm going to show in a minute. There, I'm going to show in a minute those women crying. I want you to be able to get it as clear as possible. So let's just try this. All right, let's play it.
Today, the bulletin of the atomic scientist moves the hands of the doomsday clock. It is 100 seconds to midnight.
Closer than it's ever been, as far as I know. As they did it, and you know, we're going to change it during wartime, and you know, so understand that is a great concern. That is dangerous. I put up a link to this. That is letting everybody know about that. Here's the thing: they're using terms and speech that you may not understand, and they're trying to divest themselves in these stocks before they tank and able to get their money out. So understand, people, they're talking above your head. I'm trying to not talk above people's heads, and I'm not doing this for fame or fortune. If I was, I'd hit a button and you'd see me instead of this video. Understand, I'm putting knowledge out there. I know my people that follow me normally understand that. If you're new here, that's what I'm about, is teach what you know before you go, which might be soon. You never know, because that's the, you know, this is coming over here. I may live through it, I may not. You may live through it, you may not. But I'm just going to tell you what's going on with it. All right. So this virus, the hashtags, like I said, you should check from day one. I've been putting it on Twitter. There we go. Now I'm going to show this other video where over in China, these are people boots on the ground, and I'll find the link to where the doctor left that he left. He said, "There's nothing I can do here," and he left because he knows you're going to get it. It's 100% fail rate for getting it. Whether you live or not, it'll be about 3%. And they're trying to blame it on pre-existing conditions. I'm telling you, you got to be a strong person in good physical health to beat this one, and it's going to be worldwide global pandemic, and they can't stop it. Like I said, the UK has already had officials saying that it has a high likelihood of getting there, and there are regular flights in and out. They're still leaving flights out of Wuhan, and it has a 1 week to 12-day incubation period. So these people are affected, and they're getting by the screeners, and you know, a quarantine works, but they're flying them in and out. This is not the kind of death that, no, a mask is not going to do it. Well, here in general population, a mask may work, and they're going to probably require it here. However, if it's not, And if the mist gets in your eye is still a way to get things. However, that's probably what this is doing. However, even if you're in a regular environment and you have something that seals around you, they make them at 3M, that seals around you and even could filter out disease, you should be okay. But the problem is it's going to be everywhere around you in the end. Like, doctors would not want to just have on a mask. They would want to have the full, I call it SCBA breather. Like I said, I don't know what they call it. There's a name for it. I'll put it in the description. But let me get to this video real quick. No, in the end, it won't save you. At first, it might prolong the amount of time it takes for you to get it. Now let's see here. Until they actually quarantine, and then maybe it will stop. So let's see. The WHO says it's too early to declare. Chinese hospital staff in Wuhan fear. I think that's the one. Let's get this going here. Chinese hospital staff in Wuhan, China face fears amid frontline battle against coronavirus outbreak. So these are their fears. They've got full-on suits, but they're still fearing it because it's a time when they change. It's a time when they're off duty in the hospital. It's also the fact that they got it anyway when they were wearing the face masks, and the fact that they're seeing so many people in there that they know would die without them and may die anyways, because all they're giving them is oxygen and a negative pressure room. So let's see if I can get this going here. State media said at least 5 of those patients have died. This was way earlier that they did this, by the way, because these are old numbers. It's now 17. Officials said staff, let's see, workers struggle with. Hang on a second here. Let me turn the volume down, because honestly, I don't want to feel like I'm yelling at you and I missed part of that. So we'll go back to it real quick. Get the volume down and go back to that, and I'll read it and I'll pause it if I have to. But I want you to read this. The hospital admitted 170 people with pneumonia symptoms as of January 23rd. But now that's just how many's been admitted to the hospital. That one hospital. 470 went to 550, then to 570. 570 people is what they're admitting to. The true number is somewhere around, right now, 6,000 to 10,000 people. Somewhere around that. So let's get into this real quick. I will play it now. Okay. State media said at least 5 of them have died. That's 17 that they admitted at 11 o'clock last night. It's probably about 30 now. Let's see. 15 medical staff had also. This is what they were wearing. Many health workers struggle with their own fears as they try to help others. We are still young ourselves, after all, she says. So deep down in our hearts, we may feel lost, afraid, or worried. Family members are worried too. This is where they tell the BS. But as long as we're in the suit, not worried anymore. But watch this. Under such intense work, we feel we are able to handle it, and we don't complain to anyone. Now watch them start to cry. How tough this has been for us. That's because they tell them the truth. And I am not a local person. My parents are not from here. Now watch this. So we talk on the phone or in video calls every day. They are worried about our work conditions here and get even more concerned when they see the daily news. I always say it's okay since we have good protection. Here we go. Actually, I say that just to give them peace of mind. We are actually afraid and worried. But as long as we are on duty, you see, in the suits, our own sense of mission supports us doing the jobs. Plus, they're in the suits. When they're off duty, they're scared because they're even in the hospital. So they suspended all transport in and out. I don't know if they're going to show much more of them in this video. So the death toll is going to be 3% of whoever contracts it. You can't exactly compare this to the Spanish flu. You can't say, well, there were this many people alive on the planet in that time, and then extrapolate and say this many died. So since there's this many living today, there'll be this many died. You can, however, say we got 7.5 billion people on the planet, or 7.6, to make it simple. Divide that up, 3%, 3 million. If I'm not mistaken, that's the number I came up with. So 3 million, if everyone gets it, which we probably will. It probably will be global. We have airplanes now. It's going to spread faster. And also, the problem is that, well, back then, they didn't, a lot of people grew in their own gardens. They had farms, that kind of stuff. The guy that actually had the first case was from a farm, and he came from, I believe it was Kansas. They narrowed it down to they believe that guy had it first, was patient 0 for the Spanish flu, went over there, it spread, and all that stuff. So they closed cities, though. Back then, they closed up. Every city was like, we have Spanish flu, you can't come here. You would deliver food to the border or something, and they did, you were not going in. And they ran out of coffins, people. If you can handle that kind of information, and if it'll start making sense to you, they could not make coffins fast enough. You know who's going to make money off this? For a small, short amount of time, yes, the places that are like, first off, all the rich people are going to be like, look, let's just invest in stocks that prop up these medical companies that say that they may or may not be able to do research on a cure. First off, it's been 17 years since SARS and the MERS virus were detected. And since SARS, 800 people died on that. They just quarantined them away, and the ones that died and whatever, and they stopped it. Okay? Well, they weren't flying on airplanes from city to city. I believe a lot of China is going to die. And I'm telling you why. Okay? They're all in close proximity in cities. They're all in the next door apartment, and the air systems is, they're breathing out the same attic. Listen, so back to what I was saying, though. Okay. This the people that are going to make money for a little bit of time is going to be the people who say that they can do research, but they haven't found a cure in 17 years for SARS. They're not going to find a cure for this before it, takes out all the people it's going to take out, and infects probably most of the planet. There's nothing they can do to stop it. The doctor that went there and he left realized that also. So it's going to mutate 3 times and infect more people. Let's see, it's got 18. My effing country aren't taking any actions yet. Well, even the screening at the airports, like I said, won't catch it because it didn't catch the guy that went to Seattle. Guess what? It didn't catch the guy that went to Australia. Guess what? It didn't catch the guy that went to, let's see, there was a father and son that they released from I think the hospital. They said they had it. The son was 10 years old. The father was, I think, in his 30s or something. They had a mother. I think they had a mother and a daughter. I'm not sure. There was a few people. So no, it's 4 to 12 days to develop. And then he sits there for 2 days. The guy in Seattle sat there. It was 10 days on him, but another one was 12, you see. So they're looking at the dates when they left the country and when they started feeling sick. Some were 12. So the guy in Seattle, he was running around town meeting everybody, and then that leads into the tree, your contact tree. It's another word you don't know that doctors know that you don't know. Okay, you're going to learn this. Okay. A contact tree is everyone that you were in contact with since you were around either a patient that had it or in an area that had it. So they're making up these contact trees is the best amount of science they can do. They can't cure it. They can't stop it, but they can build a contact tree, and they can watch these other people, maybe bring them in for questioning and that kind of stuff, and see if they are infected within 12 days. So the contact tree is the best amount of science they can do. That's going to be helpful to stop the spread. A quarantine, it's a little bit late. The cat's out of the bag. However, it will work if they do it everywhere these people are now at. Okay? Not entire cities, just where they've been in their contact tree. Okay? All right. Including anybody that would be in any type of doctor, law enforcement at the hospital, anybody who's a nurse, anybody who's an orderly, everybody has to be suspect. And they have to stop thinking, well, I'm a doctor, I'm immune to this. That doctor saw what was going on and split. He knew. They already knew from day one this was going to be worse. And here's the thing. They didn't even expect snake DNA to be in it. So now we're talking a virus that can live in a reptile, a cold-blooded animal. They haven't figured this out yet. They do not understand how a virus can live in a cold-blooded animal and live in a warm-blooded animal. They don't even understand that yet. So let's get to the reality of the situation. They had a normal coronavirus that they could have cured for 17 years now that they still haven't found the cure for. They're not going to find a cure for this one. So back to the money. They're going to make money, and people who have money should donate to those places because it may be our last-ditch effort, and it might be something that'll kill you later of a cancer, but it might kill this thing within you, and you might need it if you're on death's door in the hospital, if the doctor's not too sick to put the needle in your arm. So, going further, they ran out of caskets, but casket-making companies are going to make a lot of money, okay, in China and beyond, okay? Invest in those companies. A company that undertakers, the gravedigger, the funeral home, crematoriums, people who are involved in anything that's got to do with the Grim Reaper in your last days is going to make a lot of money. Now, I'm not speaking gloom and doom. The World Health Organization is even bringing this up. The people here that move the doomsday clock are bringing it up. And these nurses who are on the front lines right there, which the front lines have now moved, okay, just so you know, they're all the way to Australia and the eastern seaboard of the U.S., and we'll look at that because they're actually investigating more people that could have contracted it in the U.S. So they have interest in they're checking them out and that kind of stuff. We'll see what happens with that. Probably they have it. So it goes back to everybody he was on the airplane with. The airplane itself is not safe. Look, just because they screen you and you're good, and they screen everybody on the plane and they're good, that airplane just dropped off a load of them from Wuhan to Singapore. You take the flight from Singapore to a different part of China or whatever, and that flight has it on the seats, and they don't wipe down the seats with bleach wipes, and they don't clear out the air system that gives you fresh air into the cabin. They don't depressurize it or something at high altitude and kill all of the bugs, and everybody puts on a mask. The disease is airborne, and the virus is within the airplane. Okay, just like when they killed that guy in London using that nuclear material, and they found it with this little sniffer device on the plane, in seats in the plane. It was still there even. There's traces of stuff when diseases go places, and when other nuclear, you can pick it up. Well, an airborne disease like that can live inside of someone and mutate 3 different times, 4 different times, it's going to get worse. The death rate right now is 3%. Starting out at 3%, guess what it's going to go to, people? I'm going to give you a guess. 10%. When's it going to go to 10%? When it mutates in the second wave. When will it go to 50 to 70%? On the third wave. Do you understand how that works? It's like multiplicity. Get a calculator out. You can do it better than me. But understand that this will happen. Understand that it killed so many people. Like I said, they ran out of caskets. People couldn't go into different truck drivers that delivered stuff wouldn't go into places. You think a driver is going, I'm a driver. You think a driver is going to go to a place that's known for this or that or what? They're going to have a hard time getting in supplies. The military will have to get involved. Okay. Understand there's going to be a lot of different things. You're going to be probably wearing a face mask. It'll be a new thing, just like how the smog was in China. People will be probably putting Hello Kitty dolls on them and stuff for kids. Hey, it's fun. Put it on. You got to, or they'll shoot you because guess what? You're now a threat to the population. Not going to say they would go that far, but they would quarantine you because now you could be infected and you could be someone spreading the disease. It's not just to help you from getting disease. Because it's an incubation period in your body, a mask is to help you from infecting the rest of the people on the planet. You see, it keeps the germs within that mask. 90% of the time, when they put somebody a mask on someone in the hospital, it's so that people around you don't either get, if you've been dosed with some kind of a nuclear, I would say any of the things that they give for radiation and all that, it's so that other people don't get that because it's harmful and can cause cancer in them. You're going to wear a mask. whether you're sick and trying not to get other people infected, or whether they think you're sick and for everybody's help. But the mask is not going to 100% keep you from getting sick, but it might be a new thing in your wardrobe. Get used to it. So everyone is divesting in stock from Asia. I've been watching Bloomberg markets now for I don't know, about a week. They are now really getting away from China because they know this is definitely something they haven't seen before. The N is for novel, means new. And the problem is it's reptilian DNA. Now, I don't know if you know that they do have vets for animals. And if you have an iguana or a snake, you can take it to a vet. However, you might need somebody who specializes in that. There's not many of them, I don't think. And I don't think there's many people who will specialize in reptilian DNA. Now, you can make all the jokes you want. You can talk about what they say about the memes and saying certain people are reptilians, all this crap. I'm not into that. But the truth is, now, if you get this new virus, you now have reptilian DNA in you. That's the truth of it. So you can go as far as you want with that. The people who have this now, and chicken from Wuhan, you're not going to order Wuhan chicken. Not anymore. You're not going to order anything. And they closed the place up and were supposedly cleaning it. They're going to open it back up, people, just like they did last time. I think they need to burn the place to the ground. But this snake, bat, human DNA virus is deadly to 3% of the people who catch it. You cannot stop it. If the doctors couldn't stop themselves from getting it, just how the actual hell do you think that out in the real world you're going to stop yourself from getting it, especially if you're a tourist and you're getting on airplanes and going places? That's why they shut down, a little late, but they shut down the entire 11 million people. And I'll tell you something too. There may even be news broadcasters everybody's going to get it. No one's going to be immune. So when the news broadcasters start getting it, oh, I'm sick and I can't be in here. I was listening to the World Health Organization talk. They go into someone else talking and somebody's coughing in the background. Now, there is another flu that is in Texas. It is not the same flu unless new people have gotten there. There was rumors of possibly someone being there that might have been tested for it. They're going to test everybody for that. However, the flu that's in Texas is a pneumonia B strand. And yes, it's killing a lot of people. It's already killed thousands. However, and it's the worst season ever. However, and it doesn't make you immune to this either. But like I said, however, it's the same as the pneumonia B that's in Canada. It may be a different strain, but it's the same. People are having a hard time in Canada right now. You can look that up. They're dying from that. There was a 30-year-old, I think, if I'm not mistaken, one guy lost his wife. Another guy's wife had something that actually caused a disease in her brain where she had that pneumonia caused a disease in her brain. She lived through it, but sometimes she can't remember stuff. Sometimes she stumbles, but she says, hey, at least I'm alive. You know, let's see here. A friend of mine lives in Chicago. Has been sick for 4 weeks now. They tested something there too. Yeah, they're going to test. It doesn't mean anything. It's not because they have found someone that went to Chicago and that they're worried about it, or they would work up that tree and they'd be watching those people. What it is because of the people they don't know where someone has traveled to and from. They can't keep up with the travel of everybody. We've got millions of people. There's 7.5 or 7.6 or 7 billion people on the planet. They do give visas. They do keep up with movement. However, they can't possibly at this point backtrack and figure out for the last 4 weeks who has been in contact with, not just traveled to Wuhan, but in contact with someone who traveled to Wuhan and then they traveled somewhere else. Let's say that 2 people are waiting on a connecting flight. One guy's from Wuhan. The other guy is from, let's name a country that hasn't been hit yet. South Africa. Okay. South African guy says, oh, where are you from? He says, Wuhan, China. Oh, great. That's great. I never met anybody from that. And they shake hands and they're talking and they have lunch together and they both go their separate ways. That guy is now infected and he goes to South Africa. He's never been to Wuhan. You know, the Chinese are watching. I got you. Yeah, Icon, they need to be. So I hashtagged it like that and I'll put it on Twitter. Listen, follow the stuff I've put on Twitter, all the links and everything too, because I've got more information up there. Some of it's in Chinese, some of it's not. And I'm fixing to drop about 4, 5, 6 pages And there's a person to follow on there that's even better at this than I am, which is what I'm looking at and finding some of my information when they put stuff up. And that is, it's either NCOV 2019 or 2019 NCOV. Follow both of them because they just started those pages just for doctors to put information up and for doctors to speak with each other about. And they're putting a list of people you can follow to follow the disease. Okay, so go on there and follow them. You don't have to follow me. I'm just like, whatever. I don't care. I'm putting information out. But I do put a lot up, and I have put a lot up from day one. I told them they needed to quarantine. Let's see. Hey, but this virus is almost a great solution for depopulation. Am I right? Well, I don't think that they want to. Here's the thing. Here's the magical question. Okay. You could argue that certain diseases would be good for a depopulation if you were trying to purposefully cause one. However, the problem with this virus is it kills people who are over 50 to 60. So they've all been like in their 60s, okay, that have died. And then I think they said with the exception of one, I'm not sure. So the ones that died, the actual death rate is in older people. So if the people who are currently right now controlling things wanted to kill population, they'd be killing themselves. And if they have grandchildren, it's also ages 5 and lower, and babies that are just born and don't have immunity yet. Just like a regular flu, those are going to be the weaker ones to fight it off. And like I said, you're not going to make me believe that they can kill a virus or even give a immunity shot for this, cure it. Okay. This is one of the worst this, like I said, this is disease X. Look up disease X. This is what they've been hoping wouldn't happen, but they knew eventually it would. And it's all because people have limited food, and they were already eating rats and civet cats that are cheaper out of the market. What are they going to eat now? You got 11 million people that if you don't feed them, they will starve, and they can't work, and they can't make money, and they can't leave their city. How's that going to work out? Now, it does need to be the quarantine. However, another thing, stocks are going to go up for our corn. They just had a mystery corn event. Let me just tell you what happened. Okay, so I'm watching the sales of different things and watching stocks, and corn, along with they're expecting lamb. They're expecting lamb to go through the roof. Why? Because they've lost all those pigs, and now these people are not going to be working. Okay, so yeah, let's hope that don't happen. Eating other humans. Yeah, that's the last thing that happened at the Donner Party, right? So anyway, so they have expected now not just wool, but lamb meat to go through the roof because China having a problem where they lost 25% of the entire population of pigs everywhere. Globally, I'm saying that was 25% of the pig population died, okay, from this swine flu. And they're trying to say, even governments are saying, don't go to these areas. Don't treat it like a petting zoo. Stay away from pigs. And if you're in contact with them, even you walking, it could be on your pants leg, and you'll come to this country and you'll bring it to this country. So we don't want swine flu. And so now, because all those pigs died, though, and they even opened up, like I said, a reserve area that was just for trees and forests, and started actually populating it with pigs and raising pigs there so that they could have food. Now, what are they going to do? The population is going to be sick and can't even get out of bed. All of the, I guess you call them like an ICU, but it's not even ICU. It's a different unit. All the people who are in those units that are to be special units for this virus, all those units are full. The whole hospital's overwhelmed. That's why that doctor left. He knew there's nothing you can do here. It's a foregone conclusion. So eventually, 11 million people in Wuhan will be sick with this, and 3% of them will die. Maybe, like I said, if that's the first stage. Once it gets to the second stage of mutation, 10% will die. Then it could be 20 to 50 or 70% will die. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm not telling you the sky is falling. I'm showing the truth is it's out there that this is going to happen. These are the numbers, people. During the Spanish flu, your grandfather would have wanted you to know, don't go to this city, do this, do that. Grow your own plants. Have a stock of food. Now, all you preppers out there, look, I'm not going to say that I'm a prepper or into that a whole lot. I have food that I need. However, you might want to put a gas mask in with your supply. It's the cheapest amount of insurance policy you could possibly buy, but it doesn't need to be just for gas. It needs to be for disease also. You got to look at the filter on it, because one kind is for dust. It's useless from Home Depot. Might be better than the paper mask though. So just so you want to know, if you want to look at a line of succession from the worst thing you could use to protect yourself to the best, the worst thing you could use is a t-shirt that you've doubled over and wrapped around your head, okay, around your face and your nose anyways. Then from that would be some kind of paper mask that has a little bit better seal, okay. Maybe they're even along the same lines, but the paper is more particulate. Then you go from that to a dust mask that you would buy at Home Depot, but that's just for dust mostly. Then you would go to a chemical type of mask, okay? And then you would go to a biological. You got to look at the difference between charcoal filters and a regular filter. And you need something better than both of them. You need a biohazard suit is what you need. So it's not on your skin, because it can get in through your skin. It can get in through your eyes. It can get in through your ears. If you don't believe me, they tried to poison somebody through his ears once, and the guy asked for the antidote, and there was a whole thing between Israel and another country. Look that up. Don't believe me, it's true. Okay, every orifice you have, unless you're wearing a full biological suit, you don't want to be in an environment where someone who is contagious, and that could be while they're in the incubation period, or it could be after. You don't want to be around them, period. So when we're all wearing dust masks, if you call them that, that's all I'm calling them. They're not doing much, but it'll help you some. When that's actually required by law and they're handing those out, and the stocks in that company is going to go up, it already has. They've already invested in that. So these people are slowly divesting as not to completely tank the market, but in order to take their money out slow enough so that people who are dumb will invest in that stock, and they'll take their money and put it elsewhere. And people who are older are going to pass away. There's nothing we can do to stop this. There is no cure for it. There cannot even be made. In 17 years, they have not come out with any type of a vaccine that does anything for SARS. So if you invest in that company, that's great, but they claim to have something that hasn't went through trials or whatever. It's kind of like drinking something that might kill you to kill something else, and you don't know what the death rate of that's going to be. It's not going to be safe. I'm not going to take any fake vaccine. And no one on the planet has immunity to this. Understand, this virus never existed before. So it's, even if you look back in the times where the Spanish came over, the Spanish conquistadors, and even when Columbus came over and he gave the disease, and out of the Cherokee, 90 to 95% of the Cherokee people died way back when from disease. So did the people who were in South America, and they're finding in Brazil in the jungles, because a regular cold virus will kill you if you have no immunity to it. And you haven't had for hundreds of thousands of years, but the English had immunity to it. So they came over here with some stuff like TB and everything else, and they wanted to blame it on the Native Americans, but that actually came from the monks. The monks that were over there, they found them they dug them up on accident. They're like, hey, let's dig here in London and build something. They found bodies. They're like, oh, this must be a monk because he's this close to the cross and this kind of stuff. And they know who it was. And then there was a woman. They know who that was. And they had TB, even though they were abstinent from everything, and they had have gotten it from each other, from even flogging themselves with the whip. Well, for penance, they gave it to each other from the same whip. They all had that. That's where that disease originated, but they wanted to put it on the Native Americans, but it wasn't true. So they wanted to put the Spanish flu on the Spanish. They were the ones that were admitting they had it. The Americans had it. Germans had it. They all had it. English, they all had it. It killed them all. After World War I, it was World War Spanish flu. People don't know about that. You're not taught that. Look up the song, like I said, Ring Around the Rosies, Pocket Full of Posies. They put posies in their pockets so the kids, and had them busy while they were walking the dead people down the street. And they put those flowers in the end of these bird-looking, it makes you look like this gas mask they had back then that's sewn out of leather, made you look like you were a raven. And they put flowers in the nose part of it, so they wouldn't smell the dead, but also they thought it helped because they weren't breathing in. They figured out it was airborne something. They figured out people that weren't around it, didn't breathe it in, didn't get it. And they figured out that people weren't eating to get it. And look up Typhoid Mary. If you want to do some research, look up Typhoid Mary. There was a woman named Mary who had typhoid. They couldn't figure out what's going on. She had a business where she was feeding people, and she gave everybody typhoid. Okay? And they were dying of it. But she was a carrier. She was not immune to it. She had not beaten it. She was a carrier. There are going to be carriers who won't show symptoms. Okay? And then if you look even further from that, they had a problem where they had to figure it out in England, where there was a disease that was the water pipes were too close to the sewer pipes. Then they were drinking the water and the whole town was dying. Okay. I'm not sure what that was. I have to look it up. That's crazy, right? So there's so many diseases out there, but this is new, and they couldn't even beat the one that was a mixture of bat, which is a mammal, and civet cat, which is a mammal, to human DNA. They're not going to be able to find a vaccine for a part snake, part bat, part human DNA strand, and people will catch it, or if we can contain it, it will run its course and it will die within however many months or however long it can live on a contact surface, or however long it can live in a human before it must show itself, unless there are Typhoid Marys. Okay, that's why I brought up the story of Typhoid Mary, because it could be the end, but it could be not the end, and it could be evolving in some people. Like I said, there's going to be about probably 3 stages of this. They say right now it's stable. That's a lie. It just mutated from the bat to the snake to the person. It just did that. It's in its infant stage, and it wants to live. It's just like you and me. It is a living substance, if you call it that, okay, creature that wants to live. It's going to evolve. It evolved from the bat into the into the snake, and went cold-blooded and said, hey, if it can change like that, it can change when it went into the human, and it changed when it went into the human so that it could be more like a regular flu and transmitted person to person. It's having a grand old time with us. We're not doing so well with it. So there will not be a cure for this. 17 years with SARS. You go talk to those people who are working on SARS research, who think that they've got a vaccine for that, and you tell them, will we be living in 17 years from this virus? Will we still be alive to fight it? If this virus runs its course, and it's already gotten to the United States that quick because we use airplanes and everything else, and it hides for 2 weeks, and it can't be found with a thermal sensor on your head, we will be all gone. The ones that have died, or maybe I'll be here, and this may be the only news transmission you get about the truth of this. And if I'm still around at that time, they may not have news on TV. Who knows what kind of a world we'll be living in. And we will not see a vaccine until after all the people who would have died have died. And it will be another thing that will be, let's call it, I don't want to use survival of the fittest, because I don't believe in evolution. Even though things evolve and change, I don't believe in evolution per se. I believe that we were created. However, you could say it's survival of the fittest. You could say it is every man for himself, or whatever kind of the ability to survive. I guess you'll have to call it survival of the fittest. So if you are not fit, they're going to blame it on your pre-existing condition. Oh, that was because of a pre-existing condition, or he would have lived, right? He should have lived through that. So let me see if I can get that other video up too, because at this point, I'm telling you what's going on, people. And there's your hashtags that you're going to use on Twitter to find 2019 COV and all that. I do have another video, but in the Spanish flu, they ran out of coffins. And I hate to say it, but I don't think that they have 11 million coffins, even for Wuhan. Start thinking further than Wuhan. Shanghai, the United States. Okay? We don't have enough coffins. There's not enough coffins for this disease. And in 17 years, they have not cured or otherwise found a way to help you get through SARS. It will either kill you or you will grow an immunity to it. We have never encountered this. No one on the planet has. It's a new virus, and it's got snake DNA in it. So Let's see here. Let's see if I can find the other one. Multi-agency response. Oh, and the World Health Organization decided, well, we're going to put it off, and we'll we'll let you know what we think in a few days once we see the real numbers. Well, the real numbers are going to be a lot worse once China starts admitting to it. I've been from day one showing, and they let a guy out at Brisbane from isolation. That was ABC News. A Chinese city goes into lockdown. Let's see, deadly coronavirus, Wuhan, China. I think that this is what I wanted to talk about, because they're still going to watch this guy even though they let him out. Nope. Guess what? I turned the volume down. Hold tight.
In Brisbane,
We'll go back.
being tested.
Australian man in Brisbane. Let's see what I can't do. Give this a second here. Isn't that crazy too? All right. Let's see what we can do about this one.
A man who's been tested for a deadly new strain of coronavirus has been released from home isolation in Brisbane.
They let him go from
but is still
home
being
isolation.
tested for any sign of the illness. It comes amid fresh concerns of a global epidemic, with Chinese authorities confirming the illness known as coronavirus can be spread from human contact. The new strain was first reported in the city of Wuhan,
Now,
one of China's biggest.
The reason I wanted to bring that up is this. When we had the Spanish flu, they had soldiers. Oh, I appreciate the likes too. I hadn't been not trying to, see that there. I appreciate it. I just kind of busy here. So when we had the Spanish flu and our soldiers came back over here after World War I, they lived in barracks. These barracks looked like airplane hangars, and they had beds in them. If you ever watched, there's an older show, Gomer Pyle. You can look that up, right? Okay. So they lived in these barracks. And let's see, what's that? I'm wondering what the death toll will be next week. I don't know, but in the end, it'll be about 3 million. That's my call. I'm just telling you. They would mop the floor, and then they would wax it. Now, back then, they didn't do so much on stripping the wax off of them. They would just wax it and put layer after layer after layer of wax. Well, someone got the bright idea, hey, let's go check that out. Let's go see if we can find, Spanish flu in that wax. They did. They found it, and it was dormant but still living, and it came back to life. So you think this guy right here that they're talking about that they had in Brisbane, that they let out, let's just say that they take that same approach to someone who actually has the virus and he's in his house. Then he goes back to the hospital, and he is in there for 3 or 4 weeks, gets over it, and he goes back home. How long do you think that virus can live in his house? Well, it depends on if there's damp areas, mold, if there's a place. Well, he's done left his house for how many days? It could be living in the trash can, in the garbage, okay, because it was airborne, living and feeding off of the garbage in his house, waiting for him to have a celebration, have his family around that, hey, look, I just beat this virus. You see what I'm saying? And if you think the guy in Seattle didn't have contact, I don't know if they're going to release the contact tree. I don't think they do. However, he's probably contacted a lot of people. He just got back from China. Hey, look, I'm home, everybody. And, maybe he's married, and maybe he's got 15 kids. Maybe they all went to the public school, and maybe they transmitted it to the public school. Okay? This is real. I'm talking real. It's something that the news can't handle. You might not can handle it. Okay? So that's why the death toll is going to be so high. That's why the contact, and transmission rate is going to be high. And just going back to your house or being in your house, other people will go to your house. They can't go in and disinfect everything, and the virus will be living in there maybe for years. Let's see. How long are they keeping people in quarantine? Well, that just happened. And first, all these people in China are going, how boldly or bluntly should I put this? The disease will take its course before they raise the quarantine, which means 11 million people will get sick, 3% of them or greater, because this is the first stage. It will go from 3% probably to 10%. It could go as high as 80% of infected could die, because this virus is going to mutate. And it's like I said, 17 years and they didn't cure SARS, and they didn't come up with any kind of a shot that will keep you from getting it in the first place. And there's no antidote, like I said, nothing. So it's a new disease. The N is for novel. Like a novel idea. Hey, that's a great idea, but it's a new idea. N is for novel. Think of it as new. So I'm going to play this.
Cities. It's since spread to other Chinese cities and
Look at
overseas.
this. This is what I wanted to show.
Confirmed cases in Japan, Thailand, and South Korea.
This is older.
4 people have died from the illness,
because it's already
with
went
more than
to
200 people infected. But some experts.
Why this guy's telling you to stop and don't go in, which is a great idea. Don't go in there. I'm gonna tell you this. Okay. So it went to these other countries. And now China is actually going to not just quarantine Wuhan. They already said it today. There's going to be 3 other major cities, okay, and a 4th. The 3 is going to be possibly already or today or tonight. The 4th is going to be soon thereafter, okay? I don't know if they can listen. All their money comes from right there at the capital, Beijing. There is a sickness in Beijing. For a country to take their own capital city under quarantine, that's a big deal. Okay, I think they're going to have to, and I think they're going to do it. I think Beijing's going to be one of them. But this is not showing all of those cities. So I'm telling you today, 11 million people can't feed themselves. And they can't work because they're sick, or if they do go to work and in a limited capacity, that place is losing stock, and then they lose that company could go out of business because of this. Because if they sell widgets and watsits that have to be trucked out to another town, then they're not making money anymore. There are not many office jobs that control companies that sell things to other places that are 500 miles away from each other. And there's all these boroughs. It's not even a circle city that's confined within a wall. This is not Israel when it was first built, and then they built another wall around it and the different kings. It's not England or even China itself has a wall. I'll tell you something. That Great Wall of China might be great for this, because it might actually stop some of the spread if people will, when they stop tourism there, not cross that wall. It might actually contain something, but it's already everywhere. The cat's out of the bag. So back to what I was saying though is, all right, they are going to quarantine not just this 11 million city that has boroughs around it and it doesn't really have true containment, but also 4 other cities, but 3 first, 3 possibly today. You're not hearing this on the news yet because I'm reading it off places that they're translating from Chinese to Mandarin to, and there's 15 different kinds of written ways of writing in some of these languages. 3 in China, I think, and one's an old style, new style. Some of these people, like I said, don't speak a word of English. They're putting the word out and people are translating it. One of them is the doctors are saying that these numbers are a lie, which this is an older video. Of course it's off, but I wanted to show it anyway. But the doctors are saying that the numbers right now, from day one, they were saying 1720. Those were the backdoor numbers I'm seeing. Okay, the truth of it all. While they were saying 100, then they were saying 2,000 to 3,000, leaning towards 3,000. Then they were saying last night, when the numbers come in, they think it's going to be 6,000. Today, it's going to be 8,000 to 10,000 people. All of those rooms are filled and they're overwhelmed, and the doctors have it too. So if the doctors can't help from getting it, I don't know what makes anyone think they're going to not get it. We will get it. And you'll either pass or fail. You'll either die or you'll live. I can't determine that. Only your genes can. And it's crazy that we're all going to have reptilian and bat virus within us forever. And our children and grandchildren, if you have more children, or their children will have it if they get it, and so on, will have an immunity to it if they've lived a certain amount of immunity. They could still be compromised and die from it next time, but there's going to be 3 phases of it. So will you be able to fight the 3rd phase if you fought the 1st phase? What if you get the 2nd phase and you still are fighting the 1st phase or the 3rd? and you're still fighting the first phase. So once it's already mutated again. So it will be within you forever, and you will have an immunity to it, or you will die. And there's no controlling it, and stocks are crashing. And like I said, 4 cities, so it'll be 11 million in Wuhan and the outer suburbs more. So a little over 11 million. It'll be another, say, 20 or 50 million somewhere else, because they're talking about maybe it's the whole province that's going to be shut down in this whole area, including Wuhan. They call a province something that holds 3 major cities and then one other one. I'd like to see what they do with their with their capital. So I'll go further on this video, but it's going to be a lot of people. It's going to be whole countries.
The actual number to be more than
It's going to be
8
every
times
country.
that. The risk in Australia remains low, but authorities say there's no
I think we're at
vaccine
10,000
for the
infected.
new virus. China correspondent Bill Birtles reports.
And the death toll will be exponentially
An
rising.
outbreak in China that authorities fear may have reached
Double,
Australian
quadruple.
shores.
We've got one gentleman that we're just following at the moment.
Health authorities say he'd recently returned from Wuhan in China,
They're following
where the
him.
outbreak began. For
Great.
3 weeks, authorities have known about the new mystery virus and have played down the idea that it can be transferred between
Deadly
people.
contagion, a
But
pathogen
now
that
the
kills
news men have
everybody.
feared, with
Right?
confirmation
Let's follow
it
him.
can be spread with human contact, prompting Australian officials to ramp up screening at
Yeah,
airports.
okay, one suspected in Brazil. It's going to be everywhere.
Some additional proportionate border measures.
This is their nightmare. This is our nightmare. Welcome to it.
The 3 direct flights a week from
Get you a
Wuhan
paper
to
mask,
Sydney.
then go further and
Matildas
get you
are due to
a
play in
biological
Olympic
mask,
qualifier in the Chinese
then get a
city where the outbreak
SCBA,
started.
you know,
There are
maybe a full
currently
suit.
no plans to move the game.
Those things are out of our control in many
Or get
respects
it
because
and be
our
down,
decision will be
maybe live through
made
it.
based on the safety
If
of
there's
the
a bed
playing group.
available.
I'm sure our doctor's all over it, and he'll protect us and make sure that we're knowledgeable and not putting ourselves in any kind of risky situation.
Multiple cases are now being confirmed across China,
Multiple.
including in the capital,
Across,
Beijing.
including
Some
Beijing.
travellers
That's
at the
what I
main
wanted to
station
show.
For trains heading to the outbreak
It's in
zone
Beijing.
central China say they're worried.
Will they quarantine Beijing?
I think it's best everyone wear a mask so we don't worsen the situation.
There's a law says they have
Others
to.
have faith
See,
it can
even the
be
kid.
contained.
I definitely am
This
worried,
guy
but
was
I'm not
supposed to be wearing a
panicking or
mask.
scared. I believe our medical system
Actually,
can
this is
prevent and
before.
cure this
Sorry,
disease.
hold on, people. Understand.
Scientists are now scrambling.
This video was made before they made the law enacted that everyone has to wear a mask. If he got caught out there like that, police would stop him and he would be taken away and maybe even shot. That's why these doctors can't tell the truth on television, but they're towing the line at first and saying, oh, we believe that our great leader can do this and la, 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 right? And then they start to say, but really we're lying to our families because we're really worried because there's no protection and everybody's dying, So let's see what we got here.
To better understand the
Appreciate
new
that
strain.
comment.
So we
Mexico,
need to
Brazil,
understand how
Colombia,
it's
join the
transmitted
club.
from human to human.
Colombia. No
And
shit.
also what the
Well, it's going to be
incidence of
everywhere.
that
I'm
is.
just
So,
surprised. I'm like, who
how
went there?
many new
Yeah,
cases are
give it.
occurring?
Across
Listen.
China at airports and
If all you want to do is follow the progression till it's at your doorstep and until it kills people that you know and care about and until you have it, if you just want to follow the progression of it, listen to what I'm saying. You go back to patient in from December, but you can go back to the patient that hit Seattle. Look at the date that he hit Seattle. Look at the one that hit your country. I'm in the US, so Seattle is the one I'm watching, right? Here's what you do. You get a calendar. You take it off your wall because it's useless on the wall. You get a pen and you write down on each date. You say, okay, well, this guy had it here. He was in here. It was this many days, and that's when he went to the doctor finally. Okay, great. You write that he was sick for 2 days. So the incubation period was from 4 days to 12 days. Okay. Then you will expect the next case for everybody that he transmitted it to be exactly how many weeks it took him to get it and show signs of it and for it to be transferred. I'd give it 7 days to 12 days. So because it's going to be 4 days, then they're going to feel some symptoms. And then about the 7th day, they'll go to the doctor, or the 12th day, they'll go to the doctor. Okay. Even if they get on the 12th day, it could be the 14th day. So anywhere from 1 week to 2 weeks, write the number down for 1 week. I would keep up with it weekly or bi-weekly. Write down the number infected in your country for 1 week. Then it's going to be their tree of contact tree. And that will be that many people. And they will infect another 20 people each. They will infect another 50 people each. It will go exponentially. The virus is going to mutate 3 different times. It's going to go on until it will resemble the results of the Spanish flu. You can look at Paul Joseph Watson. His numbers were a little less than mine. He put 3%, but he put less than 3 million. So my numbers are correct because I used a calculator. I don't know how he came up with less than 3 million. Maybe he put 1.5 million people are going to die. That's the death rate. Now, the actual rate of transmission is going to be, I think, 100%. Just like the flu every year goes all over the country, and either you're immune to it and you might sniffle and cough, and then you're like, what was that about? And you have an immunity, so you don't really get it, or you'll contract it, but it's around you all day long, every day. The flu virus is everywhere. So then that is going to be everywhere. It's absolutely going to be everywhere. And there, like I said, there's no cure. There's no way that they can possibly make any type of antiviral or a inoculation against it. It's just not going to happen. I'll play this guy some more here. But he should have been wearing a mask if he was out there today, but this was way earlier before they made the law.
Train stations like this one, authorities are scrambling to screen
and this guy's he's just not smart. He should have been wearing one because he's going to be leaving the country. And there's still flights that were leaving Wuhan yesterday. Did you know that? Even though it's quarantine, planes were leaving yesterday out of Wuhan.
To discuss strategies to contain
yeah, he could already have it. That's why I said the news service will probably get it first. And you might not have news from a few people.
China correspondent Bill Birtles joins us now from Beijing. Bill, how do people feel about the government's response to this?
Well, Lara, we're hearing mixed things. When we ask people on camera, most of them say we believe the government is capable of handling this situation and can contain the outbreak. But you need to always take anything that a foreigner with a camera asks people on the street in China about.
Hang on a second here.
Because I
want to say one other thing, too. I'm not saying that everybody's going to die of a disease. I'm going to tell you this, though. It's going to be the fight of your life. It will make you think you are dying. Okay? When I was younger, I had what's called pneumonia 2. I was in a oxygen tent. It's called a coop tent. Listen carefully, people. I can speak from experience, and so can anyone else who maybe contracted this SARS. That was a reporter. They've told about it. It will make you think you are dying, and you might, or you might not. However, if you don't have medical treatment, you could, because you will get the pneumonia from it. It's not a matter of I'm going to get a flu, but I might not get a pneumonia. This disease is you're going to get the disease and it causes pneumonia. You may or may not die from the pneumonia. Do you understand? Your lungs are going to fill with water. That is inherently pneumonia. That happened to me when I was a child. It's from going outside and having wet hair, running around without a jacket on, not paying attention to things and not being told a little bit better, and being around someone who had it. So my immune system was down because my temperature was down. Someone else had a flu, and it was able to mutate in me and become pneumonia. I was much better once they put me in a hospital for, a week? Let me tell you something. You will think you are dying, okay, if you get pneumonia. If you get this disease, you will get what is called pneumonia. It will cause it within your lungs. That's why everyone's divesting of these countries in stocks. That's why everybody's quarantining these countries. It's not a matter of I got the flu, but I didn't get pneumonia. You're going to get this disease, and it's going to cause pneumonia. Whether you live or die through that pneumonia will be a matter of your own immunosystem and just how strong you are. and whether it's meant for you to be one of the survival of the fittest. I'm not saying everyone's going to die. I'm telling you everyone's going to get this. And I'm telling you it's going to make you think that you died. And you will not forget it for the rest of your life. Ask me how I know. I was in the hospital in a coop tent, an oxygen tent. Now, everybody wasn't wearing masks because my pneumonia was not transmittable. Okay? The worst they could get from it is a flu, and they would probably beat it. However, it will cause damage to your lungs. Like the lady in Canada, it could cause damage to your brain. And in certain people, it's going to cause damage that's irreparable. She can't move her toes. There's some weird stuff going on with her. I'll put a video up. I'll play that in just a second. Understand, you will get this. You will think you're dying. Keep a good spirit about yourself. You'll probably live through it unless you're over 60 or under 5 years of age. Also understand, the medical community is going to say, piss on this. I'm not going into work. I'm not bringing this to my family. It's time for me to have a semi-retirement or get a different job. Call it desertion, call it what you want. I understand completely. Either way they are. You could either be, hey, I'm going to save the world, or you could be, hey, I'm going to save myself. I get it either way. No judgment. Understand it's going to happen because it's in human nature. The doctors ain't going to show up. The doctors are going to retire. I'm gonna find that video. You know what? I'm going to stop this guy right here, and I'm going to, let's see if I can find this here. Man, like I said, there's so much I could show on this. I could go in, like I said, to the old influenza from 1918, but I wanted to show what's actually going on with this. I'll let this guy play out. He's got a few more minutes, and I will get to that. Like I said, and they're not going to show up. I wouldn't blame them. Or they'll be sick themselves.
Planning on cancelling their Lunar
I speak
New
from
Year
experience on the pneumonia. I had pneumonia too. It's worse than regular pneumonia, and I almost died from it. You will think you're dying, but keep your spirits up because you'll get through it if you live.
That said, though, most people we have spoken to here in Beijing, they say compared to 17 years ago when there was the SARS outbreak,
that's when I started learning about diseases, is whenever that almost killed me.
For not giving adequate
I could write a book on some of this stuff. I'm not a doctor. I'm a student.
And this time, they mostly believe authorities.
Do you get the sense that China has the capacity to contain the spread?
Well, if any country has the capacity, China is usually pretty good when it comes to infrastructure or building things quickly or earthquake relief or whatever you
17
talk
years they
China
couldn't
generally is a pretty
cure
efficient,
SARS.
Political structure in which to have an emergency response. The big downside,
You live
of course,
or
when
you
you're talking
die.
about an infectious disease is China is densely populated, and in Wuhan alone you have 8 to 10 million people. We saw statistics this afternoon suggesting that 3 to 4 million residents of Wuhan will plan to travel over the next 2 weeks.
And they're traveling. Let me tell you.
So this gives you an idea.
These people are traveling because it's the Chinese Lunar New Year. In our culture, it's like Christmas. It's how they travel. Okay? A lot of them, honestly, some are Christian, but a lot are Buddhist. So their big thing is the Chinese Lunar New Year. They've already been traveling. They're going to continue to travel within China. I think it's going to wipe out 3% of China first, but the petri dish or the experiment or whatever you want to call it will be this pseudo or quasi quarantine. I was calling for a quarantine from second one. They're doing a quarantine in Wuhan. Wuhan will be the test subject. Wuhan will be the measuring stick by which you can judge every other city in America, including New York, okay, by how many will die and how many will live, because they have good doctors and good hospitals there, even though they're not quite as good as ours, and we have a little bit of time to build some more ICU units with a negative pressure environment and maybe do some more research into what we did with Ebola and how we brought them in bags and this kind of thing and worked on them specifically, carefully. However, there's only 3 places in the United States can work on them. So it may be a good idea to utilize those research centers and maybe transform them into Wuhan virus care centers before we get it here in the United States from Seattle or from anybody else that's traveling. It's been 2 weeks that it could have been 2 weeks ago. Somebody could, I don't know how many planes departed from Wuhan, China, and brought people eventually either by connecting flights or straight to the United States in the past 2 weeks. You could maybe talk to one of the major airlines, ask them if they know that question. But they can tell you how many flights leave Sydney, Australia every day. They can tell you and go back and forth, and there's a lot. So, like I was saying, I'm going to continue this. I'll continue this here.
What health authorities in this country are up against. One measure we did hear in the past few hours, Lara, is that the Chinese government will ban travel groups, tours and so forth.
All tours
from
have
the
been
city of Wuhan
canceled and all that,
over the next couple of weeks. But even that restriction,
they cancel them
won't
for
stop
you. You don't have to cancel
individual
your
travellers
trip. They
getting on
cancel
trains
them for
and
you.
Going all across the
That's the
country
way they said
and
it.
also to other countries like Australia for holidays.
Bill, how do you?
They've
how
realized.
does this virus?
They've realized that this is not protective enough because the health workers are getting this flu. So, and all the units, like I said, as far as the hospitals, think of New York City. Okay, this little city of Wuhan is so many people in it. It's more people than they said London. I think they said it's 1.5 times or something like that the size of London. So if you're over there, you could judge that. But I'm looking at New York. New York uses so much fruit, vegetables, and meat and this kind of thing. They got their own little Chinatown there. Okay, so back to the Chinese New Year, Lunar New Year, they travel back and forth, and it's their time to do that and go visiting. So these people that have worked all year long, saved up their money to go see grandma in China and came back, they're already back. They've been back since December. Okay, the New Year, Chinese Lunar New Year, is a little bit, it's in December is where they started their travel to see these people to be there, and now they're traveling even more now because now's the start of it. For like however many weeks, they're going to be continually traveling within China. And it's going to be hard to stop the people even from Wuhan. They're already in other cities, and those cities are going to travel to other cities. So exponentially, I think all of China will have this. It just matters if we can go back far enough to stop it from spreading in the U.S. from people who were I wouldn't call these people the typhoid Mary, but the people who have contracted it and came here and they're in the incubation stage. When it mutates the third time and makes typhoid Marys, how many of them will we have is the question. So I'm gonna play this some more, but that does not help. They have to be in full suits.
Compared to other outbreaks in the past, whether it be speed or the actual nature of the strain of the illness.
Don't let them lie to you, though. There's no vaccine, and there won't be one.
Here in China is to SARS, which came about in 2002, 2003. Around about 9,000 people were infected with that illness. It was very similar. Health experts have said that this particular coronavirus is different from SARS, but there are similarities.
It's reptilian DNA, it's snake DNA and bat DNA. So it lives in cold-blooded too, which they don't know how it's possible.
Back then, health authorities, for whatever reason, were accused
3 different
of covering up
scientists
the
did not know what to do with the information they were given. They did not believe it. They tested it 4 times.
How much they believe or not believe the government
snake
response.
DNA.
This is why there genuinely is quite a lot of cynicism in China towards the official reports. But so far, it seems, with only 4 deaths, that this probably is not in the same league as SARS.
No, it's way worse. See, this is a way earlier video.
China. Thank you.
Okay, so this is a way earlier video. I've like I said, I've got so many links I'd like to show you people, and I could do this for a long time, but I'm gonna show a few more and then I'll get off this thing. But understand though that they are going to lock down a few more multi-million population cities. It's not just Wuhan, it's 4 more. 3 more are going to be today, 1 more later, but it's too late for China. It's not too late for the United States. It's not too late even for the countries that got in the passengers if they can clean it here. You want the live map? Hey, put up every link you want to. I don't want to get your name wrong. Let's see if I can do this. And I have missed all these comments, and I apologize, but just know that they'll be up there. Let's see. You want the live map? Ripperino pepperonis. Yeah, put the link up for anybody. I'm putting information out. Can't send it. Oh, okay. I'll tell you what. When this video is done, it will make it. This live will turn into a video. Make a comment. That's okay. Sometimes it won't. Make a comment when this video goes up, and I'll let it through. Okay, I'll have to go on there and make it so your comment can go through, and any comments will be approved as long as you're not any kind of bullying. But thank you. Yeah, so that's for everybody. So I'm just trying to put information out there. Like I said, if I was trying to get famous, all I would do is hit a button. Everybody would see me instead of seeing the information I'm trying to teach you. But if I don't show you information and you see me, you may not pick up the information. So it's a Eastern philosophy. Like I said, it's a Taoism. So let's see. Who says it's too early to? Oh, WHO says it's too early to declare. That was CNBC News. And I'm not sure if I played that one. Give me just a second, people. Let's see. Bloomberg Global News. Wuhan lockdown. Let's see. Global News. This may have been one that I was going to. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'll play this real quick with the. Let me turn the volume down.
The Chinese authorities.
More deaths, more patients, and the
January
lessons learned from
22nd.
Canada's experience with SARS. Deadly vacation in Quebec. A snowmobiling ride
Let's
turns
see.
tragic for a group of tourists.
Global
And
News.
was the world's richest man hacked?
I think absurd is exactly the right word.
The suspicions.
I'm
Saudi
playing
Arabia
past some of
targeted
this where they
Amazon's
talk about
CEO.
the hack thing.
Plus, humor
Let's see.
and heartwarming gestures born in a
I'm
blizzard.
looking for another virus video. Let's see if they play this now.
Global National with Donna Friesen.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. We begin tonight with drastic measures being taken to try to contain the outbreak of a mysterious pneumonia-like virus. Chinese authorities
It automatically
are
causes
effectively
peumonia.
putting a
Understand
quarantine
that.
on
It
an
doesn't cause the
entire
flu
city,
and then cause
cutting
pneumonia.
off
It is
Wuhan,
pneumonia.
where the potentially deadly coronavirus first emerged in December. Planes, trains, buses,
I wanted to
subways,
mention
and
something
ferries
else too. The guy in, I want to say Brisbane, the guy that they let out, still, they said that they checked his lungs and it showed, they said it showed a lessening of these spots in his lung, but they weren't completely clear. So they're letting these people out that could still, honestly, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, be contagious, because I think they called them, I don't know what they called the spots on his lungs. I don't know the word that they used. However, yeah, put it on my Twitter too if you want. It's Truck and Stuff 1, at Truck and Stuff 1. So in the lungs of this guy, he still has these things, but they let him out anyways. Okay, so he's not completely cured, even though they let him out. Now, what happens? Let me ask you a question, people. I'm going to ask you to ask yourself this question. Educate yourself. What happens if 11 million people in Wuhan, China go to the hospital and they realize that the 8 or 10,000 people are already turned away from there, and they think they may die if they don't get treatment, and they feel like they're going to die? What's going to happen when they start, instead of taking the train, what's going to happen when they start going down to the train, if it's a subway, and walking through the subway on their own and breaking out into the next town to go to that hospital to get treatment because they were denied treatment in the town that they live in, or the city of 11 million people? So you got 11 million people fixing to go roaming into the next place, carrying this disease with them along the train or the bus or the back of the pickup truck or whatever it takes. And he's like, well, this is my mom. She has to get, or this is my father. This is my grand. We have to get these people to, they put up for a few people. But at the point, and it won't be long, at the tipping point in Wuhan, these people are going to infect every city in China. There's not going to be any stopping them, because just like your family is going to be important to you, is going to be important to them. They're going to take them to get treatment. even if it breaks a rule, they're like, well, they're going to die. So that person is going to be a carrier after that. Okay? So, and he doesn't want to go back to Wuhan because it's infected. So where will he go? He will go into his new adopted town that his family member died in, and he's going to work closing up because they can't sell their widgets and Watsits, and they can't go into work because there's no work because those companies shut down and said, because of the virus, we're just going to shut down. So you're making no money. You can't buy rats anymore at the market. Now, do you know what they did in Nazi Germany during the war when there was no food coming in? First, they ate the dogs. Then all the dogs were gone. Okay? There was no horses, they lost a lot of horses in World War I. They thought it was going to be a battle they could ride horses in on. And World War II, and tanks took them all out, and all those horses died. Millions of horses, however many. So it was not a war to be fought on horseback. So horses they had and cows, they ate them first, then they ate dogs. After the dogs are gone in Nazi Germany, what happened? Okay, before the end of the war, they were circled and surrounded. They had nothing coming in and coming out. They ate the cats. Well, by the end of the war, there weren't even any rats left. Do you understand, people? There were people at that time. I just watched a video where a guy was in a South African country that had that same type of poverty, and a building got hit, but then changing and recycling it. So they took out, one guy's taking a square air conditioner and rolling it end over end into the dust. And as long as he don't get shot by the military, he thinks he can sell that and have food to have something to eat. So these people here in Wuhan will they won't want to go back to a place they can't eat at. And if you think they were eating the civet cats before, there'll be a whole new market somewhere. Okay? And it could be SARS Part 2 of this, because it'll be in somebody's basement, or it'll be in an alleyway. Okay? And they'll let the blood run in the streets of the animals that are there. It'll be even less clean than the Wuhan market. So if you think the Wuhan chicken's bad, you should try the Wuhan civet cat. That's the kind of thing. It's going to get worse. So I'm going to continue playing this, but these people are going to leave there to get help. They're going to stay there because it's outside of that city, even if they're carrying it, but it's in its incubation stage. It's dormant for the first couple of 7 days or so, or 4 to 7 or 12 days. They think they're good, and they're like, look, I'm going to get a job here in this town because if I go back there, I'll get that disease. They already have the disease. Then they're going to spread it in that town or city. All of China is going to get it, and then it will come here. I really, truly believe that.
City of 11 million
this is disease
will be
X.
suspended tomorrow. The aim is to cut off transmission of the virus, but it is spreading. At least 17 people have died. More than 500 others are infected.
Something
there are
happened
now
with my
confirmed
screen
cases
now.
in South Korea, Taiwan, Thailand, Japan, and the U.S.
So it doesn't like
there
me.
are no confirmed cases here in Canada, though 5 people in Quebec who recently returned from China are being monitored. The World Health Organization has teams on the ground in China and is holding off on declaring a global health emergency for now. It's advising governments to be vigilant and ready to test anyone who has traveled to the affected region and has symptoms like cough and fever.
The screen is shut down.
Has our top story tonight.
You see what happened here with my screen?
They have no option but to get up close and care for those who are ill. The new strain of the coronavirus is spreading fast in China and beyond. Chinese officials in Wuhan have made masks mandatory and are implementing drastic measures to limit people's movements.
Is the screen, I'm seeing that the screen looks froze, but I'm hearing, as long as you can get the audio.
We stress to them that by having a strong action, not only they will control the outbreak in their country, but they will also minimize the chances of this outbreak spreading.
Yeah, but audio's fine. Okay, that's fine.
Where the virus first appeared in December, hospitals are overrun with people with flu-like symptoms.
Probably listening to what I'm saying, understanding it's true.
It can be much more serious. This new virus is in the same family as the common cold. It's triggering fear because it's also the same chain as SARS.
Great. So understand it's the same family as the common cold is what they're saying, but really this is a zoological disease. This is or zooastro, or whatever they call it. This is from animals. So they're saying it is in the same family as the common cold. However, this is from animals, and it's deadly, and it immediately causes pneumonia. It doesn't cause you to get sick and then you get pneumonia. Its job is to affect your lungs. Think of it like tuberculosis, and you will better understand this disease. If everybody's on the same page now, you talk about TB, or you talk about smallpox, or you talk about things that are understandable in that way. Because when you call something a flu, it weakens your perception of it. This really should be called, well, they're calling it Wuhan pneumonia over there because they're smart enough to go ahead and call it pneumonia, Wuhan pneumonia, because that's what you get. That is the hashtag they're using over there. 5 million people are following it. I'll put it up just in case a couple people want to see who don't know over there, you know, that they can get their information that's in Chinese or Mandarin or whatever. So, like I was saying, once you understand common cold, we don't have a cure for the common cold. The common cold is everywhere. Anyone can get it. And if you have an immunity to it, you've recently had it of that strain, which is why they give out several different vaccines that are flu vaccines. A flu vaccine will not stop this because it's not the flu. This is a disease that causes flu-like symptoms. Your lungs will have these lesions in them, and it will cause damage for the rest of your life. So the first one doesn't kill you. The third mutation of this virus could, or even the second, if you still, if you get and contract the second. It has not mutated yet, except for the fact that it did mutate between a bat and the snake. Between the snake, it mutated inside the snake and then to the human. Somehow it lives in cold-blooded and warm-blooded creatures. This is what this means. Every living animal on this planet is susceptible to this disease. So it could reemerge as a different disease once your cat and your dog gets it, or once your pigs get it, or once your horses get it. But in the meantime, what it does do is in the human, it will mutate at least 2 or 3 times. It's going to change from the time it changed when it went into the snake. It changed when it went into the human to mix with a flu type situation that it could be spread human to human and with your DNA. And it's going to evolve again 3 more times, 2 to 3 more times, depending on if we can quarantine ourselves to get away from it and people have any kind of antibody to it before the 3rd time. Because if the 3rd time hits someone who's never been infected, they won't stand a chance. Or if it's someone who's weakened by the 1st time, they could die from it, but you know, they will probably show some antibodies to it. It's all about your body making antibodies. Anytime you have a flu or a cold, you'll make antibodies, but they haven't in the past however many millions of years this planet has been around. And if you want to say that humans have been here for 200 to 500,000 years, wherever your number is, they've shown back to 250,000 years. We have not cured the common cold. So if we haven't cured the common cold in roughly 200 to 250,000 years, there's no reason for you to think or entertain the thought, okay, that even recently we had a similar virus and couldn't cure it in 17 years, and it played itself out. There's no way that we're going to cure this. Not only will we not cure it, we won't make a vaccine for it. You will have to create antibodies within your body that will help fight it off, and you might still get it a second time, because there are people who have had one strain of flu, and then the next year they've got the same flu. Even though they got it, they didn't create antibodies and an immunity to it. And there's different strains of flu. Even the flu shot, they admit, is only, they call it, they say that the flu shot does its job if it creates antibodies. Well, if you get the flu, your body creates antibodies, right? Well, that's a problem. That's not true and accurate. Because you could say that everyone, 100% of those people who got the flu shot, and this is what they did, who gets the flu shot, is now not, that it worked properly, even if they get the flu from it. Some people have gotten the flu from it, or even if they get the flu later. They're saying that it works 100% of the time because it creates antibodies. Anything you put inside your body, even if you die from it, will create antibodies. So they don't talk about the people who actually get the flu from the flu virus, and they don't talk about the people who get the flu later because it's a different strand, or even get that same strand. As long as it creates antibodies, their test says, this is their litmus test for the flu shot, is it works if it creates antibodies. No matter if you catch the flu from it, no matter if you catch the flu later. And their excuse is always that, well, you could take the flu shot and that it should, is what they're saying. I'm not saying you should. They're saying you should. If you take the flu shot for influenza B and influenza A comes along, you will get influenza A. And they only give the shot for the most predominant strain of virus that is currently affecting people. Okay? So once you understand that, you'll understand that the flu shot doesn't even work against the flu, and this is not a flu. No amount of them changing that flu shot to make it similar to a different flu virus, they can use those strains. They cannot, and they've not had the ability to work with SARS, which is the other coronavirus that's just like its cousin. They've not been able to cure this or even give a shot that makes antibodies against it in 17 years. Do not be fooled into thinking that in the next 6 months, as this disease plays out, that they will have a cure for it. The cure is quarantine. The cure is don't have yourself in the proximity of this disease. You are susceptible to it. I don't care who you are. No one on this planet has ever encountered anything like SARS, and they definitely haven't ever, because snakes don't play with bats and then become someone's meal and be around chickens and everything else. They have never had this. This may be the first time on the planet that this disease ever existed. It's the first time we've ever found it, and it's got reptilian DNA in it. It's a cold-blooded reptile, a snake DNA. So I'm gonna try to get this thing to work again. This may not work. Let me see what I can't do to try to make this work, because it really needs to play so I can show this. See, frozen, but the audio fine. Let's see. See, top chat, live chat. Maybe this will work. Let me try something real quick. If that works, and it's saying low battery. This should work and bring it right back up. Okay. So, if that ever happens to you, you can swap out the camera. You have to zoom again. Let's see what we got. All right. There we go. So, let's see. Will breathing air only from my chimney help me with this? Well, here's the problem. If it's airborne, it's not going to care what altitude it's in. It doesn't even care if it's in a cold-blooded animal. Evidently, this is the first disease, I believe, ever. I'm going to say this. I'm going to go ahead and say this. I think this is the first disease ever that mutated from a warm-blooded animal to a cold-blooded animal. And I'll go further. I think it's also the first disease that's ever went from a warm-blooded animal to a cold-blooded animal, lived, mutated, and came back to actually live in humans. So, however it worked, it did. And I'm going to move this quick and plug up my my battery on this thing off of a different device. So, having all kinds of issues. You know, when you tell the truth and when you're onto something, you might actually have somebody mess with your stream or your phone. Who knows? And if I lose this, I could go back live again. The whole point of this is to put out information, though. It's not to, man, look, I mean, if the sky is falling, you have to talk about it, right? So let's see if I can charge this one up better off of this charger. All right. Made you last night. No worries. So these are, like I said, the hashtags that you're going to use. Some of them, just a few of them, and let's see what we got.
As busy as Airport Heathrow will be screening for signs of illness on planes. And
oh yeah, there's.
They have any signs or symptoms to let us know.
Let's see here.
So that.
Hold on a second. I'll play the rest of this too. On Global News, if I can bring it up. Giving me the vortex there. That means it will not work for a second. He should come back up. So, yeah, there's screening on airplanes, but those heat sensors do not pick this up if it's in its not dormant stage, if it's in its incubation period. So it's an incubation period of, like I said, anywhere from 4 to 12 days. Oh, it's no connection. Isn't that great? Let's see what it's doing here. We shall see. It may not work, period. Chinese phone. How about that? My phone has the Chinese flu, people. Are you paying attention? Everything's got it. So, that's great. Let's see what we got here. I can go to this other video, or I can go to the first of this one. It doesn't really matter. That's on the that's Global News, and I'll try to put up links to these if I can find back which ones I used. There are so many. I'm gonna go to my live links. I've saved. Oh no, the whole thing is out. I've got 100% battery. Nothing on the connection. Let's see. It's totally out of control and way beyond any containment now. First cases reported in Scotland today. Wait. From planes that flew in from Heathrow, London. I'm going to have to, of course, confirm that, but I believe you. It's going to happen everywhere. But Heathrow in Scotland. How many cases? And something is messing with my battery pretty good. I may have to swap out this cord for that thing, and my internet just completely crashed. Are they messing with me, people? What do you think? It is highly possible. Let me plug this up. Showing 9% though. It's doing something. This is a better wire. So we're doing what we can. I'm telling you though, you can look at how bad this video is and how bad everything works, and you could still understand that I'm giving you better intel and better news coverage of this than a multi-billion-dollar news corporation that could care less if you know ahead of time that, hey, we're going to get this. You know, this is going to happen, and there's nothing we can do about it. So they are divesting all the stocks in all these companies. Like I said, trying to move their money around, but it's not going to save them. And we're going to have to bring food to those people. They're going to be sick and in their homes. And eventually it's going to be, well, stay home. Don't go to the hospital. Hospitals are full. Those people are going to go to different places and different cities, and they're going to take the disease with them and ask for help in those cities because they care about their loved one and they don't want them to die. And there you go. Because everybody's going to feel like they're dying. Every single case makes you feel like you're dying. Every single case. Like I said before, I had pneumonia too. I felt like I was dying. This is worse. This will go on and on and on. They can pump you full of antibiotics. That's going to help. They can put you in an oxygen-rich environment. That's going to help. They can put you in a negative pressure room where it goes one way and blows out and it keeps them from getting more people sick. That's going to help. However, some of these people are going to need blood transfusions. Some of these people are going to have pre-existing conditions like, I don't know, a sniffle from another cold, anything. They're trying to call it a pre-existing condition. They're trying to play down the power of this virus. This virus is our worst nightmare because we know nothing about reptile DNA and how it affects humans and how we can, I'll tell you what, in the end of this, they will more likely be able to cure the virus that was in the snake than they will be able to cure the mutated virus of it that is in humans. It's never had the ability to mutate before, and I'm showing low battery too. So everything's fried. I'm fixing to go back onto the internet real quick. It says offline, no connection. Let me see what I can do. I will give this a fair shot. Oh, I believe I know what happened. Let's see if this is plugged up. And it is not. that's why I was having problems with that. But my battery is fighting me also. We'll see how this turns out. If I can regain internet. So people, the best thing I can tell you is that before the stocks in the United States of face masks run out, you might want to go ahead and procure yourself at least a few cheap dust masks. Go from there to something that works, that you would get offline for chemical, and then go biological. It has to be something that's going to be better than what they had, because they had paper masks, then they had another mask, and before they completely suited up, they all got this. Even if they were suited up, that's what's scary. Somehow, I think it was 1 or 2 doctors and 4 nurses and 7 other people from one person got infected. You don't stand a chance in hell with a paper mask of being in a room with someone with this that you may not know. You could be in the airport. You could be anywhere, and be around someone, and you will find out that you're not immune. No one is. So if you want to put up any links, like I said, I got to check that one out, that thing out that you said that is now made it to Scotland from Heathrow. Let's see. I'm scrolling, so sorry about the screen going a little crazy. That's me. I'm doing this. Let's see. Okay. The guy that said it's totally out of control and way beyond any containment now. First cases reported in Scotland today from planes that flew into Heathrow. I have to check on that. So if I can find a link that talks about that on here, but I just let's see here. Retry for the internet. I may not be able to bring this up, but you can make a few comments if you want. And if I can't get back online, then I will make this the end of it all. I will talk about a couple of other things though. There are people that are saying that the doctors are saying that China is lying about the complete numbers. So we're not going to get complete numbers. I will try to update complete numbers as I can. They're more like right now, anywhere last night at 11, it was probably 6,000. By tonight, it will be 10 to or 8 to 12, 8 to 10,000. Sorry, 8 to 10,000. And then who knows where it will go from there. It could be so wildly high on numbers. But for them to quarantine 4 other major cities with tens of millions of people in it, along with Wuhan, because Wuhan's quarantined now, they're going to do 3 more today, 1 more, as I believe it's today, and 1 more right after, if not also today. So it's 4 other major cities, and I'm wondering, is it going to be one of them going to be Beijing, their main city? I want to appreciate the like. Got 5 likes. Hey, listen, people, my links are going to be probably better than this for you, and I'll try to put them up as soon as I can. I got a few other things to do, but understand also that Twitter is the best way to get this information. Follow someone that actually their name on Twitter is #2019NCOV, like that. Another one is NCOV-2019. It's 2019 because they found it in December, and it never existed on the planet before. So like I said, we all will get it. And it's not a cold that causes a flu. It is a flu causing virus. It will be in your lungs. You will either live or you will die. You will think that you're dying. And if you don't get help at the hospital, you might die even if you're strong. They had people on the 2nd and 3rd wave of the disease that is now known as the Spanish flu, even though it came from, I want to say it was a Kansas farmer, they believe was patient 0. Once it gave its 3rd wave, its mortality rate went to something like, man, was it 50 or 90%? I mean, depending on too your conditions, because if you were in a one of the trenches, or if you were in a foxhole and you were over there and you were cold, your temperature was down, you're not going to live through it. A lot of people died from it. then after the war, they were even fighting it. So after the war, for all the way till, what was it, 1920 was one thing they were saying was rough about it, but they ran out of caskets. People were not delivering food into cities. They delivered food to the edge of cities and dropped it off, if that. And then some truck drivers didn't even go there. These were little trucks, okay, if that. And then just like they did in China, they'll probably have to shut off trains. Imagine if you live in New York. You know that you work every day in New York. You need a, what do you need in New York? You could tell me, people. You need a backpack and an umbrella and a train pass. And you get on the bus and you transfer, right? If you're in, any of the major cities, you need a backpack, you need a umbrella, and you need a train pass and a bus pass to transfer to get home and to get to work. A lot of people, it makes no sense to buy a car. You can make money if you don't have to pay for all the stuff for a car. In some places, there's nowhere to park one because parking is limited. Well, guess what? They're going to take your ride away from you. They're going to take away your bus. How are you going to get groceries? Well, you're not. How are you going? I mean, it's going to take the military to supply these people with every daily need, and they're going to have zero income. Bartering right now in Wuhan is going on. Bartering. Okay, it will happen that way because now you can't even buy a civet cat or a rat or anything. You got to catch your own food if you don't have money coming in. So for the jobs that have already tanked on them and for the next jobs that have tanked on them, if they're not in a hospital getting IV and fluid, when they go back home, if they have no money, they can't be expected to sit there and starve. They're going to be roaming around looking for something to eat. And if they didn't grow anything in their backyard and they don't have canned food, they're going to be looking to barter. So, like I was telling someone a long time ago, and this may come into fruition in my lifetime as much as I hate this. I've told a lot of people this. There will once be a day when you could have a $100 bill in your left hand and you could have the oldest, rustiest shovel with no handle on it in your right hand. And someone would have given you that $100 for that shovel head, or you will willingly give $100 for a shovel head so that you can put a wooden stick to it or just dig like they did with the Clem tins in World War II, dig a tunnel and try to get out from they were in being held captivity and they were prisoners of war. They dug tunnels out with a milk tin. They called them Clem tins. They spelled milk backwards, whatever. Understand, there will be a day when a shovel is worth more than $100. And it will be just the shovel head. And you will willingly want to, if you have not already had shovel heads, you will dig a garden and you will start to learn to garden so you will have food. Because you will not get it delivered to your city if your city is in the shape that Wuhan is in. Wuhan is currently, they may not have a, what's it called when you build up, they may not have the facilities to make ice, water, and MRE kind of situation like when our military in the United States, if we have a natural catastrophe, you can expect at the Walmart or points of delivery, they're called pods. I've delivered to them, okay? When they were down in Hurricane Katrina, I was down there for 53 days. Ice, water, and MREs, and I drove the truck they needed a morgue unit. You have to cool the bodies in a reefer, a refrigerated unit, you understand? So they'll need all of those things, okay? These bodies will need to be buried and destroyed, in some way. I think they're going to run out of caskets in Wuhan, but understand they're going to need the government to bring them the ice water MREs. Forgetting about the death side of it, they're going to need food. There's bartering going on now, and there will be bartering going on, and there will be a time when the Japanese yen, okay, is going to be stronger than the Chinese yuan. The Chinese yuan, you'll need 100 of them to get a shovel head. Okay, that could happen today. Somebody could be trading money in China for what they can get because you can't get it from outside the city. So everything in that side of that city has to take care of 11 million people. If they don't already, they need to grow gardens on the roofs. I don't know how long this is going to last for them. I think it'll be to the last drop, to the last person drops, to the last. I mean, they will live through it. Some of them, like I said, 3% of the population is probably already a foregone conclusion because they are in a quarantine, and that's just to save the rest of the planet. And a military quarantine, you don't want, I'll tell you what, people, if the United States has a military quarantine, you will learn what a true quarantine looks like, because it's no joke, and it's the way it really should be. There is no, well, there's some outlying suburbs that might, no. Oh, no. And you will learn, we have the infrastructure is the word I was searching for. We have the infrastructure to provide a limited amount of MREs to a human populace. 11 million people eating every day, expecting their food every day, and they're sick. What are they going to do with the infected water bottles when they're done with them? All this stuff has to be collected and destroyed, okay? I'm telling you, Wuhan has a serious problem, and they are bartering right now. And this is day one of what you, because they were leaving out of planes last night. This is day one of their quarantine. There are 11 million people who just experienced day one and probably should have already went to the market. They're moving around. They're trying to work their jobs. They're trying to do what they do. However, companies are going to close. Food is going to get scarce. Someone's going to have to deliver it in some kind of a safe manner. And I don't know how it's going to get. Maybe that will create some jobs for people to move food. There will be looting. There will be bartering for this and that. And there'll be no escaping once they're all sick. Because once they're all sick, it's not a matter of did they get the flu or not. The flu is the automatic. Like a sick, if you get a cold, the cold is automatic and you might or might not get pneumonia. They're going to get pneumonia automatically. Okay? And then they may die or they may live. And it's going to cause problems. That's the one I wanted to find, and I think I've got internet. Let's try. We will try. Okay, I got internet again. Let me see if I can find this lady where it actually, she got influenza B, and she's in Canada, and it caused brain damage. And this was recent. So this is just like the ones going on in Texas and in Canada. But I want to show that this is going to cause damage in your lungs. I want to understand once you get this, if you live through it, they're still going to watch you to see if you're contagious for how many weeks. They're still watching the guy in Brisbane, and he may be, but it's definitely going to cause damage to your lungs. There's nothing that you can ever do to your lungs that you will grow back. If you smoke cigarettes, you may get better from it. You won't grow them back, any damage that you do. You have these cilia, these small hairs in your lungs. Like I said, I had pneumonia too, almost died from it. This stuff will automatically give you water in your lungs and all these cysts or whatever in your lungs. That's what it does. And you may or may not live from it, but you're going to have water in your lungs. If you don't have the oxygen treatment, you probably will die. And there's only going to be so many beds. And I felt like I was dying. And I know what it's like to feel like and believe that you're going to die. It was called pneumonia 2, which is supposedly right there on death's door. I remember it, and I can tell you, you will remember it. I'll probably get it again, evidently, with this, just like everybody else will. And you'll feel like you're dying. You will swear you're going to die. And at the end, you'll be like, just let me die. Your mind will make you think death has got to be better than this. I'm just being completely honest with you from my experiences. Now, I did not have SARS. I did not have MERS, but same thing. You got pneumonia, So let's see if I can go into this playlist real quick. And you got to see what happened to this woman, and she tells about it. She can't move toes. Her brain has got fluid on it. I'll put some of them in that flu links. Let's see. Back from the dead. Oh, that's the very, very top of this. So you people, I'll just bring you the truth. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. If you can handle it, you can handle it. If you can't, I would not recommend to even watch this. So, but you'll get educated on it. I promise you, it will happen. Let's see what we got here. 3 rockets, coronavirus, how to stop an epidemic, Brisbane man. I have got to find, but they did move the world death clock. Let's see. Coronavirus kills 2. I have to find the video. I'm working on it here. So if you want to say anything or put any, I said you have to put up the links with comments, but I can't help that part. Let's see, back. Let me go to video board recently added, and flu B. Maybe I put it in with flu B, where that one Brisbane man, China confirms Wuhan virus, human to human. China reports. Let's see, hundreds of cases of mystery virus. Okay, let's find this next one. Could this coronavirus be disease X? Let's see. Deadly. This may explain the spread of Chinese disease, coronavirus. Flu complications killed 2 in Manitoba. This one is I think the one that I wanted to show.
She loved to laugh.
Well, and that's the kind of stories you're going to start to hear too, is this person loved this and this person loved that, and this is the story of this person, right? Okay. Because truthfully, this is what it's going to do. It's going to split up people.
Dustin and Joanne Entz were...
Well, oh, I guess the battery on that one, or it restarted itself. I'm telling you, the Chinese are messing with my stuff. It's not just Chinese. I'm sure that a lot of people would not want all of this to get out, but it's just the truth. Let's see, it just came back on. So that means it's probably not the battery completely. I'll see what the percentage is of this battery, but yeah, you're going to get stories like even during the Spanish flu, there were stories where whole families died, parents died, but the children lived, and all of a sudden, so like and by the way, in post-war Germany, they had a thing. They were looking for feral children, wild children that had no parents anymore and were running around wild, and they would ask them, "Hey, are you feral? Do you have a place to live? Do you have a family?" And you really couldn't tell too much because they didn't have much in the way of, stores where they could get hygiene products and this and that. So everybody looked pretty disheveled, the German people right at the end of the war, because they were getting bombed out of existence. And that's just the truth of it. And so let's see if I can get that back up. Well, the battery's at 97% and the phone turned off. Anybody want to touch that one? Yeah, it's being messed with. No worries. See what I can't do. Far be it from the Chinese to hack anybody, especially on a Chinese phone. But I'll get this back up. That's just funny. The irony of that, to me, is not lost on me. Let's see, done. I will be right back up on that video. Let's see what here. Close that out, go right back to that video if it'll pick it back up. We will try this again, because I don't think that I hit restart. I know that I pretty well just hit the side. Let's see what we got here. History. And I'll show that this guy, his wife, got affected by that. This was the one that killed 2. Hold on a second. This may not be the correct one, but I'll show this anyhow. This is the flu B that they're having in Canada going on right now, and this thing is working super slow. It should
love to laugh.
Dustin and Joanne Entz were married just 8 months ago.
Flu.
On Sunday, family and friends gathered in church again, but this time to bury her.
This is influenza B, the same one that's hitting
to
Texas.
help him carry on.
It is confusing, but there is moments of grace.
Joanne had asthma, but Dustin says she was healthy when she caught the flu.
That's what they're going to call
Eve.
pre-existing conditions.
She's very weak and
The
very
flu,
crackly breathing.
diseases that
They went to the
hurt your
nearest
immune
emergency
system.
department near Morden, Manitoba.
But it's going to be worse
Doctors
than
there
that.
had her airlifted
There's
to
not much worse than
Winnipeg,
death, but
about
I'm saying.
125 kilometers away.
But she was in septic shock, and they were unable to do anything.
Septic shock.
Dustin says doctors have confirmed his wife died of complications stemming from influenza B.
Okay, so this is influenza
Flu
B.
season seems to be hitting young people particularly hard. In this town alone, up to 25% of the students were homesick before Christmas. Now in Winnipeg, a
They
grade
closed the
12 student
schools.
has died.
One person showed up.
Complications of the flu.
This is just what will
Blaine
happen.
Rupenthal's family says his heart stopped. They don't know why, but doctors told them it's connected to
influenza complications.
Now,
Students at
this
his
is
high
just
school
flu B.
say he'll be missed. Public health officials are scrambling to deal with a surge of flu patients. Just last week, they activated an emergency flu response plan.
Very unusual year this year, where influenza A, influenza B, and respiratory illnesses have all come
Influenza
at the same
B
time.
is the worst
I would
in
frequently
Canada,
tell her that I love
and
her
it's the
for
worst
moon
in
and back,
Texas.
and she would respond with,
And a lot of
"I
people
am
are
her
dying.
sun, moon, and
But
stars."
this is going to be
Dustin
worse.
Entz and his wife had planned to get their flu shot after New Year's. He hopes
And
their
a flu
story
shot's not going to help
encourages
this
others
at
to
all.
get the vaccination.
So,
Karen Paul,
before they go
CBC
into
News.
all of that, I'm trying to find, I may have had it as a link to this one under this video. The lady who had a regular flu and had brain damage from it. Let's see. Let's see if I can find it. But there's absolutely no stopping this, and it doesn't go from, it's not a matter of cold and then maybe pneumonia. It's not a matter of flu and then maybe pneumonia. It's immediate pneumonia and possible death. And they cannot blame this on your pre-existing condition. So when you start hearing about the deaths, don't believe that it was the fault of the pre-existing condition. It is this virus that it takes a very strong person, healthy person with lots of luck and an oxygen tent to live through. Let's see what we got here. Brisbane man released from isolation. World Health Organization. This is where they had said it was too early.
Speaker, but I will just remind everyone who are our speakers. It's Professor Didier Houssin, who is the chair of the emergency committee.
This is where they said it was too early for them to call it a disaster, or that they should actually go in and say, we're not going to let any more flights into this area and have control over a country because of a disease, even though they have the right to. Let me turn the volume up. Oh, they're just quiet. We'll get there.
This is being webcast on WHO.
This is for the World Health Organization.
Who are online and wish to ask question, please dial 01 on your keypad and you will be put in the queue. Just before I give the floor to the chair of the emergency committee.
If I lose battery completely on this live stream, if it completely kills out, I think something's actually causing it to do that. But if it does, I'll end this live stream and make it a video, and I'll put a link up on Twitter. Share this video with everybody you know. This is the most amount of information that I've been able to put together. I did not have a list or written bunch, but I'll do another one maybe in the next few days. The numbers are going to be much higher.
Thank you very much. So
nothing will change except that.
According to the international health regulations, main treaty in the field of health, Dr. Tedros has convened an emergency committee about the novel coronavirus epidemic in China, and the question was whether this event constitutes a public health emergency of international concern. The advice to the DG, which is provided by the emergency committee, is that now is not the time.
Now is not the time. So I want to stop for a second. This was yesterday, okay? And they got together, the World Health Organization, getting together and talking about disease does not stop disease. Getting together and talking about it and deciding to do nothing doesn't stop the spread of disease. Okay. These are just facts. I'm not trying to knock them. I'm just pointing out facts. So I'm bringing you information that you're not going to see on the news. They're going to glance over it because they don't want to cause a public panic. I don't want to cause a public panic. I want you to understand that in 250,000 years, they have not cured the common cold. In 17 years, they did not cure SARS. Neither one of them is there a vaccine for. The flu now, because there's so many strains that are prevalent, 3 at the same time, only one of them will be warded off by any flu shot you could buy. And even then, it's just considered to be a good flu shot if it creates antibodies. So you could get the virus, or later it might not even work against the virus. But if it creates antibodies and you're feeling kind of rough from it, then that means that the flu shot worked in your body as far as they are concerned. That is their litmus test. So this disease currently has a 3%, like I said, death rate out of 7.5 billion people on the planet. That will equal up to 3 million. There's no way to stop it except for a complete quarantine of every city that someone is got it in, and to quarantine them further and sector them out from the people that have been around that tree, that contact tree, like a family tree, but it's a contact tree that they have to create for each person who's even been around a person and everybody they've been around and in contact with. It is reptile DNA, which further confuses and compounds the problem, because it's not supposed to be that you could have something that would be living in a warm-blooded creature also be living in a cold-blooded creature. So every single animal on the planet is susceptible to this. So let's say that all the people on the planet get it, 3 million die, then they have children. The children, for some reasons, some of them pick up the immunity, some people are still not immune to it. They buy a dog. That dog has been, bred in a place that 3 generations ago had this disease. This disease will be here forever, people. And you will either die from it or you will create an immunity to it. And when you get older, your immunity may fall off because you're older. So it's just like the flu. I'm going to tell you something. There's an old saying. Listen when I say this, because this is old knowledge. Please listen. If you don't listen to anything else, listen to this. There's an old saying that says that pneumonia is a baby's worst nightmare and an old person's best friend. The reason they say that is it could kill a baby because they've made no immunity to it. Okay? But an old person that's ready to die, it's one way to die, and it will take them out pretty quick. So it's a baby's worst enemy. Okay? Worst enemy, that's right, not nightmare, worst enemy. And it's an old person's best friend. So they die in their sleep, they die in their sickness. This disease is everyone's worst enemy right now. I may be the first person to ever say that. You need to look up disease X, and I'll play that in a second. I'll let this guy finish saying about how they met with everybody and they decided to do nothing yesterday, even though China was smart enough to say, okay, and even though it was late, let's have a quarantine, but it was a quasi, semi-quarantine that they let people out of. Flights were even leaving last night. The guy was just talking about, he made a comment about Heathrow. That's a half-ass quarantine. The United States is not going to play when they do a quarantine. They've even talked about that if South Korea doesn't pay more, that we might be pulling out or whatever. I'm going to say something. Might be a good idea for us to leave South Korea simply because the flu, this deadly pneumonia, whatever you want to call it, this disease that kills your lungs and you get water in it and you die, or you feel like you're dying and you might live through it, maybe in South Korea. It is in South Korea. It may be something that it wouldn't be a good idea for our military to get. We might pull out of the countries. It might be a good idea to leave them. There you go. So I'm going to play the rest of what this guy says, but they did nothing, but they convened again today, and they are going to decide whether they're going to shut down flights to certain countries. And it needs to be like Ebola. They need to have a certain airline that flies in and out on the same planes, doesn't swap planes because they can't decontaminate the inside of them and have people in them. It needs to be just for supplies, and there you go. And that's what happened with Ebola. They said that Obama even praised the one airline for continuing to do that. We do need some travel. The masks, they come from China. Is anybody getting the irony on this? We need a manufacturer in the United States to hurry it up and make production of masks. So we'll have masks in the United States when China is shut down and when we start to get the virus, or we will not have masks, people. Another thing, scalpels. Because of our EPA, we can't even make 440 grade stainless steel in this country. Okay? So having said that, we need to be able to make 440 grade steel, because guess what? Scalpels are what they use in surgery. they have to be a high grade of stainless steel, simply because regular steel will rust, and anything that rusts will cause you to die from the infection. Okay? That's why if you step on a nail that's rusty, you have to get a tetanus shot. Tetanus will make your jaw lock up and you will die. Okay? So if you don't get a tetanus shot, you die. Well, if you're in surgery, you need a stainless steel scalpel. Stainless steel that's 440 grade or better, 700, whatever, comes from China. We need to be able to manufacture stainless steel here at a higher grade and tell the EPA that they can eat it on wherever that place is located. We need to manufacture gloves, okay? The styrene, dustless, whatever they, not styrene, you know what I'm talking about, the surgical gloves, okay? The dustless ones are the best, but there you go. Latex. So then there's also a need for, well, anything that comes from China right now, I would not order personally, because those companies, that's why the company's going to close, because people are going to think in the same way I do. Why would you want something from a factory that's got someone that has Wuhan, Chinese flu, whatever you want to call it, Chinese pneumonia, this disease that come from animals that really should just be called virus X, and it's going to come to you in a box and be dropped on your front porch if you order stuff from China, if they had the disease and came to work sick and you just got delivered side order of Wuhan flu. So I'm gonna let this guy keep talking, but they did nothing yesterday. I don't know what they did today. This is yesterday.
It's a public health emergency of international concern. As I told you yesterday, the emergency committee members,
and those 11 million people are going to get restless real quick.
Were very divided, almost 50-50. And they continue today to be in the same division with regard to the advice concerning the declaration of a fake. Several were reinforced in their idea that it should be considered as a fake, considering the evolution of the epidemic, some increase in the number of cases, in the severity of the disease, but several others say that it is too early because of limited number of cases abroad, and also considering the efforts which are presently made.
All right, let me say something.
China.
They're saying it's because here's the thought, and I'll turn him off because this is boring, and I'll go back to something that makes sense to the people who want to watch this. Okay, his way of thinking is this, and they were a split decision. Half of the WHO were on one side and saying we need to quarantine and stop flying flights into all these places that are affected. The other half said, well, here's the problem. If you take the United States, for example, someone flew to the United States and they're sick. They, on the one hand, say, yes, that's a pandemic. Okay? All right. Or an epidemic of proportions that have gone to other countries. Pandemic. The other argument is technically they did go there, but they didn't spread the virus there. So until such time as they spread the virus to other people there, we can't say that we shouldn't go there. So all of these other countries are in a stalemate it's a race to wait to see what happens in Singapore, Japan, all these other cities that weren't Wuhan. They're all going to be about Wuhan until this next 2 weeks happens, because it's going to take a 4 to 12 day incubation period. Let's just say 4 to 10 days. In 12 days, from the time that those people landed in those countries, like the guy was talking about in Heathrow for Scotland, if that happened, because it did happen in Australia, they said that they cleared that guy, but they're still checking him, but whatever. So here's the point. If you go by the one school of thought that says, well, it's everywhere, these people have spread everywhere, it's a pandemic, and we should, not go to those places and not fly airplanes in there. Okay, well, fine. Then there's another school of thought that says, well, because they didn't spread them in all those other places, we should wait and maybe not even touch Wuhan because they've got that under quarantine. All right. 4 other major cities are going to be under quarantine. Let's just say, though, that in exactly 12 days, because of their inaction, if they don't work on that contact tree for the guy in Seattle, for example, for instance, let's say that guy has already had contact because he was here. I think they said he was here for a week. 5 of those days he didn't feel sick. 2 of those days he felt sick. For the 2 days he felt sick, he did contact his health provider, but he did not go to the doctor because he had to make an appointment. So for 2 to 4 days, this guy was transmitting a disease anywhere he went in Seattle. We don't know what his contact tree was. And we won't know for another 7 to 12 days. And in 7 to 12 days, those people will pop up and we got to jump on them fast because they've got to be quarantined immediately. And they were sick with something that's similar to the common cold in transmission. And that being said, I don't think we can stop it. But if we get on them fast enough, maybe we can quarantine it to a certain suburb in Seattle. Maybe we can give it time and it will not be able to live on surfaces like your table or your kitchen counter and can be wiped up with bleach and who knows what. And maybe if they treat it like the Spanish flu and burn everything, that'd be a good idea. We may live through this in the United States. However, in China, it's a different situation. Everyone that has been contacted by the 8,000 people, that probably 8 to 10,000 people who have it, they're saying, the doctors were saying 6,000 at 11 o'clock last night. They went to the hospital. There's only so many beds open in those special units, and some probably got turned away even from the tents outside the hospital, thinking, okay, you didn't scan properly for this or whatever, or you don't show a fever, let's check you out, and then they test it. It takes however long to test it. If you run 8,000 tests and you make one mistake, that one grave mistake, and mix up the vials. Now, you're a sick health worker. You've been working all night and all day and haven't had much sleep. You're upset because you think you might get this, like that lady was, and you're crying. And you're trying to also label all these bottles and vials that just got handed to you. If they make one mistake on this testing and tell one person they have it and another person they don't, that's one person that's going to want to get the heck out of Wuhan. And when he does or she does, if he's allowed special permission or for whatever reason, then it gets spread somewhere else. That same thing could happen in Seattle or any other place. The only thing that stops this is completely not being around it. Like I said, it automatically causes pneumonia in your lungs, water in your lungs, and you'll either die or you won't. So I'm going to go from this guy here. Like I said, it's a split decision on what you want to call a pandemic, whether it spreads itself or whether someone just shows up with it, as to call it something that they would shut down a town for. They have a right, because those people are in NATO and all this, that they've had an agreement for a long time. If anything ever happens, we have the right to shut down your town. I may not be able to find the one where the lady had the problem with that. I will go to one more here. Let's see. That's Watch Live. DW News Stream, Watch Live, Bloomberg News. If they talk about it on Bloomberg Live, I don't know. Let's see what we got here. This white guy. Okay. Let's see. Chinese city goes into lockdown. But there was a lady who just got the flu B. Let's see how the 1918 one started. How to stop an epidemic. I have had so many, like I said, so many videos, but like I said, keep in mind, they ran out of caskets after the 1918 Spanish flu, or they called it influenza, and it was not even this bad. They said this is going to be 10 times worse. A doctor said that this could be, is what he said. He believes it's going to be. He said it could be 10 times worse than SARS. SARS killed, I want to say, 800 people, and they were even giving those people help out of all the people that were infected. Let me find this other one, if I can. It's where a lady had damage afterwards. You understand it's going to damage your lungs, and if you ever get it again, like it's not the common cold. It's not that the people who were affected by it are going to get immunity and they're going to be just fine. it is damaging to your body. Let's see here. This may explain the thread. Mystery illness. I really want to find this one where it shows that this one was damaged. How dangerous is China's Wuhan? Human. Yeah, they didn't want to say it was human to human until after it was already so many people. Singapore Center for Global National. I am looking for it for you people, so hold tight. Let's see what we got. Oh, this one. This is one that might tell you about the disease X part of it if I can get to it, because I think that's the one I wanted to show. Let's see, ABC News, and there was one other one. Kills 2 seconds. Let's see. I may not be able to find it. I'll go to this one. Let's see what we got here. Cases tripled. Yeah, they're going to go multiplicity effect is what's going to happen. And there's super spreader, though. There's going to be a lot of those super spreaders. And no airport screening is going to stop this, because you won't have a fever. You won't have a fever at all while it's in its incubation period of from anywhere from 4 to 7, maybe even 12 days. Let's see. This is where they talk about disease X.
For 2 years, scientists have been on high alert for disease X, a novel pathogen for which there isn't yet any treatment or vaccine. As a mysterious virus strain takes hold in Southeast Asia, could this be it? An unidentified lung infection was found in more than 40 people in Wuhan, China in December. Now it's been found in Thailand and Japan. 2 people have since died. Tests have shown that patients were infected with
this
a
was
novel
way earlier.
coronavirus.
It's a lot of other places now.
These viruses are very common in animals. They live and spread in pigs, domestic and wild birds, dogs, cats, and
snakes
camels.
and bats.
For some
and
reasons
civet
that
cats.
we don't yet understand,
and a dog.
the virus mutates and makes the leap from animals
not a dog
into
raccoon,
humans.
a dog possum,
Only
or
7
something dog.
coronaviruses, including the
They got
spring
animals
one,
over there. They
have
eat
made
rats.
the jump into humans.
There's a lot of
the
animals
majority
that eat.
cause a common cold-type illness, but 2 viruses, severe acute respiratory syndrome, or SARS, and Middle East respiratory syndrome, or MERS, have been much more deadly. Between them, they have infected 10,000 people and killed 800 worldwide. The first people to be infected with coronaviruses are usually humans who have close contact with animals. For example, in MERS, the virus jumped into camel workers. Coronaviruses spread through droplets when a person coughs or sneezes.
A cough can go 8 to 10
when a
feet.
person touches something, such as a door handle,
and you can walk
which
through
is
it.
contaminated with droplets, and then touches their mouth, nose, or eyes. If a super spreader catches the disease, they can spread it to a disproportionately large number of people. Once it's in the wider population, health workers are most at risk, because its symptoms are like that of any other respiratory illness, such as pneumonia. Sufferers will have a cough, a runny nose, a headache, a fever, a sore throat, and a feeling of being generally unwell. Scientists don't yet know why coronaviruses mutate. There are still no treatments or vaccines for them.
No treatment, no vaccine.
In a world where people are more mobile
Don't believe the
and
hype.
connected than ever, we cannot rule out the possibility of further spread. The fear is that if the virus mutates, it could suddenly race around the world, infecting thousands.
Suddenly, right. Yeah, I want to find one other thing that shows a better map of where it's traveled to, and I did not know about the one in Scotland, so I gotta look this up. Let's see, virus, Scotland. I appreciate that comment on that. Let's see, we got UK risk of coronavirus in Scotland. That's roughly. So even though that's 4 suspected cases. Ooh, it is. Oh boy, that was 3 hours ago and 1 hour ago. Well, do we want to watch Rupley and give them? That's Russian television. Understand? My understanding of it is it's like RT. I could be wrong, but it's like propaganda. But we could check this out. That's 114 views, 126 views. You know what? Let's watch them both. We'll start with Rupley. We'll give them a little bit of shine here, but let's see what's going on.
Well, I can assure Kenny Gibson and indeed assure the Chamber that together with Health Protection Scotland, we are very closely monitoring what is a rapidly evolving situation. I should say that the risk to the public here in Scotland and indeed the UK is currently classified as low, but obviously that is kept under review. Health Protection Scotland are liaising with NHS boards and are currently in daily contact with Public Health England. We're also liaising daily with colleagues in the UK Department of Health. We're also paying very close attention to the decisions and the advice that comes from the World Health Organization. I can also say that enhanced monitoring measures have been implemented for flights from Wuhan City to Heathrow. That will involve each flight being met by a port health team who will check for symptoms of coronavirus and provide information to all passengers. And
that's not going to help.
If there's any further information that could helpfully
they
be
need a week. They need a 2-week quarantine on anyone coming from those places. Give them a place to stay.
Extremely closely, and the Health Secretary or I will ensure that Parliament is appropriately updated.
That's not going to work.
In the days and weeks to come.
James Kelly to be followed by Mark Roscoe.
Thank you, Presiding Officer.
That is not going to work. So basically it's saying risk of coronavirus in Scotland low is what they're saying on that one. Hold on a second. I don't know what they got talked about on this other one. I'm looking for it. Let's try this. 4 people being tested.
This is what a lockdown looks like in the city at the centre of the coronavirus outbreak. Wuhan, home to 11 million, now a place where no one can leave or enter. But can any of this contain a virus which is now spreading across the world? The restrictions mean so many now can't travel for the forthcoming Lunar New Year holiday. This woman says, my husband's parents are in Chongqing expecting their son and grandson to go back home for the festival. Now we don't know what to do. And while many left Wuhan City before the curfew, one British expat decided to stay.
We might have expected otherwise to travel around a bit, to move around a bit, to visit friends. Grounded for now, anyway. And the interesting thing is, we just don't know how long this is going to last for.
You're there
Despite
until you
the
live
global
or die.
spread of the virus, the Health Secretary confirmed it has yet to officially touch the UK.
There are no confirmed cases of this new infection in the UK so far. We've been closely monitoring the situation in Wuhan and have put in place proportionate precautionary measures.
The parallels with the SARS virus 17 years ago are unavoidable. That too emerged from a live food market and also disrupted Spring Festival celebrations. But today, one of the UK's top medical researchers, speaking at the World Economic Forum in Davos, said he was hopeful coronavirus wouldn't prove as fatal.
It is not SARS. The virus is in a similar family to SARS, but this looks different to SARS.
It looks different.
Fewer
It's snake
people will
DNA.
die. 10% of
Don't
people
believe me,
die with
people.
SARS.
I've got
I
the
suspect
medical
the
report on it.
mortality
I'm going to put it on
rate of
Twitter.
this infection will be lower
It is
than that.
reptile
Words
DNA
of slight optimism
mixed with bat
as Chinese
DNA
cities go
mixed
into
with
lockdown.
human DNA.
British scientists
They couldn't
wait for news.
cure SARS. They
Julian's
can't
with
cure
me now.
this.
Julian, what
There's
more
no
do we know about
vaccine.
these
There will
suspected
never be a
cases in
vaccine.
Scotland?
Yes, 4 people undergo
17
tests.
years
3
they've been
in
working on
Edinburgh, 1 in
SARS.
Glasgow, it's understood. They travelled to Scotland from Wuhan around
They still
2
haven't
weeks
got a
ago.
vaccine
They've since
for the
demonstrated breathing issues, which is, of course, a red flag for this virus.
19
At least one
Spanish
of them
flu.
is a student, possibly all 4 of
This
them.
is worse.
And interestingly, the head of infection medicine at the University of Edinburgh says he thinks we'll now see a lot of this across the UK.
And it will
He's
mutate 3
predicted
times.
Similar scares, he says, in pretty much all UK cities with a large number of Chinese students.
It's going to
This is
become
not
more
confirmed,
deadly and
of
more
course. Number
deadly.
10,
The
stressing
percentage,
this is just
the death rate
precautionary.
is going
Still no
to
cases in
go
Europe whatsoever. And in the last
so much
24
higher.
hours, 2 people in France
If we
tested
can
negative
quarantine
for
it, there'll be less people to get it, but the death rate of the people that get it is going to go up exponentially. So let's see if I can find, like I said, there's not enough that I can try to explain to you that this has so many similarities to the end result, death-wise, is going to be just like Spanish flu. You want to hear something odd, people? For anybody that's into numerology and you really want to talk about this, okay. In 1820, there was a deadly virus that killed a lot of people. In 1920, there was a deadly virus that killed a lot of people. That's the Spanish flu. In 2020, we have a deadly virus that's going to kill a lot of people. The irony in that is not lost on me either. So let's see what we can get here. That was where the World Health Organization ordered it too early. China locks down 2 cities. I want to see, no, it's going to be a total of, they said 3 more and it's going to be 4. Let me see if I can find this under Chinese flu. And we're all going to be wearing those masks, and it will be mandated. I can guarantee you that. Let's see. 2 days ago, everything is like 2 days ago on a Chinese flu. Let me look up coronavirus. You will not get this from mainstream media, and I have picked through a lot of bad videos to bring the best information I could. So I would appreciate if you would share this and click like. And at the very least, if you don't learn it today, you're going to learn this within the coming 6 months. It'll be on your doorstep. Let's see. 7 hours ago, China coronavirus. This is BBC. 7 hours ago. They still won't categorize it from the World Health Organization 3 hours ago. They'll catch up. Let's see. That's okay. People are quarantining, so they're understanding it, even if those people don't. They're just scared to take control of a country. Coronavirus, Chinese city to shut public 23 hours ago. Washington, how China is reacting to the deadly. Let's see. First case confirmed that was a day ago. Okay. But they are watching, my understanding is they're watching the contact tree, like I told you about, of the guy in Seattle. I think they've got their eye on something like 7 or 12 other people. I saw that somewhere. I can't bring all of this. You'll have to find it on Twitter. But that 2019 NCOV and NCOV 2019 are 2 different places on Twitter that doctors are putting up their experiences with this. So here we go with this one, China coronavirus.
Beijing's authorities have cancelled New Year celebrations this weekend as a precaution as fears about the spread of a deadly new virus.
Beijing canceled the holiday.
Singapore has just confirmed its first case of the virus.
Yeah, I heard about that.
2 more Chinese cities, meanwhile, have joined Wuhan, where it was first identified, in being put into lockdown.
No, it's going to be 3 and 1 more. It's going to be a total of 5.
Population of 8.5
Trust me,
million
people, I've already seen
are
it.
70 kilometers away from Wuhan, where 11 million residents have been told to stay put. Well, the World Health Organization has said such a massive operation to restrict people moving and spreading the disease.
Yeah, they're saying this whole, what they call it, that's 11 million people right there. They're saying this whole area.
People have died. 600 more have been infected, most of them in Wuhan. Stephen McDonald reports.
Wuhan is in virtual lockdown. In this city of 11 million people, you're not allowed to enter any public space without a mask.
Turn this. I've done been here so
Public
much.
transport has been closed. The last flights in were already half empty. The final train services were also.
I will put links up to all of these.
Normally, the Lunar New Year rush would mean you can't get a ticket.
We're at the very epicenter of the virus. Maybe it's best not to travel.
I'm confident that our government has the situation well in hand and that the situation will be quickly brought under control.
Now, wherever you look, people are wearing masks. They're lining up to buy more masks. Some people are cancelling their trips, and there is a lot of concern. And what's really made people pay attention to this health problem has been the shutdown of Wuhan.
The Wuhan shutdown has made this emergency suddenly very real for people right across China, triggering memories of the 2002 SARS outbreak, which led to more than 600 deaths. Neighbouring cities are also stopping train services, as well as closing bars and restaurants. These drastic measures have been welcomed by the World Health Organization.
The sequencing was done quickly, but more importantly, it was shared immediately. And that's why Korea, Japan, Thailand were able to diagnose the new coronavirus quickly.
In all Chinese cities, medical teams are preparing for an influx of patients with the coronavirus, which causes pneumonia.
I want to be the guy on radio on this side of that glass if it has to be like that. Like, you go ahead and do that.
We are worried about our work here and get even more worried when we see the news every day. I always say to others it's okay as we are well protected. Actually, I was just saying that to keep them calm. We are actually afraid and worried. But as long as we are here, our own sense of duty will help us to do the job.
I showed the full part of the video where they told the rest of
So
it.
honestly, we feel lost and afraid.
They're seeing so many people
Our family
die,
members are worried
but
too.
so many people
But
come
as long
in
as we
and they
wear
know
the
they're going to
protective
die.
clothing, we'll
And there's
be
nothing they
okay.
can do about it.
Travellers had already left Wuhan before the transport shutdown was in place. With a 5-day incubation period, many may have carried the virus to other cities and countries, not knowing they'd already been infected. And inside a metropolis quarantined from the outside world, medical teams are bracing for this emergency.
They're going to have to bring them
get
food.
much worse before it gets
They can't work.
any better.
A short time ago, Stephen McDonnell also sent us this update from Beijing on how the crisis is having an impact
I don't know how they're going to get gasoline.
Right across China, this emergency, well, it's touching every community. Here in Beijing, the temple fairs, which are normally a central part of Chinese New Year celebrations and would be very crowded over the coming weekend, called off. From here to Hong Kong, New Year celebrations cancelled, street parades and the like, and that's because the authorities are worried about this going the way of SARS. Now, if you look at the death toll so far, as a percentage, it's not nearly as bad as SARS. But when you consider the raw numbers of people travelling, flights alone, now there are 6 times as many people flying out of China as there were at the time of the SARS outbreak in 2002. And that's why the World Health Organization is set to meet again to decide whether or not to declare
This is old and they already met again.
Emergency.
A doctor at the hospital in Wuhan, where this all began, has been speaking to the BBC and said the virus is now spreading at an alarming rate.
Alarming
the
rate.
hospital's been flooding with thousands of patients
I didn't
who
say
wait
that.
hours to see a doctor.
He said that.
You can imagine their panic. Normally, Wuhan is
Thousands
a great place
of
to live, and we're
patients.
proud of our work. But I'm scared because this is a new virus and the figures are worrying. Well, this story is obviously developing quite fast. There's a lot more about it on our website, including this article answering reader questions, including exactly how the virus spreads and the current advice about traveling to China, which is being updated.
The U.S. has already put out an advisory says do not travel to China. Okay. And they've also said that they have plans. I don't know just how deep they go. Listen, I mean, you want to talk. It's not a funny thing, but people talked about the guillotines and all that. I don't know what the plans are. I don't know. I don't know what to think. I do know this much, that in the event that this thing gets out, people will have to be quarantined. And I don't know how they're going to feed them in those countries. I know here it'd be ice water and MREs. So I hope you like the peanut butter ones. They're kind of good. The ones with the peanut butter and stuff. And then, hang tight. I will find this other one. And let's see. You know what I'm going to do, people? I'm going to end this live stream. I'm going to end it on you so that people can watch the first of it, so it can be dropped in a video and you can make all the comments you want to make. I think that's the fairest thing to do right now. Is everybody okay with that? If you want to make a comment, you can go ahead and blow up a few more comments. Sorry if I didn't read them live. I was just putting this out. I want you to see the links you can look for on Twitter and on the internet. You can also look up, I'll give you some links. You can also look up NCOV-2019. You can look up, put a hashtag in front of it with no space. You can look up coronavirus, CORONAVIRUS. You can look up Chineseflu. You can look up wuhanflu, WUHANFLU. A lot of people in China are using Wuhan pneumonia. So they may not look at it all because they speak their language. However, it is one link that's working. We're trying to spread the information on this and let people know what's going on. It's kind of like a news net. I'm going to put this up as an Operation Hot Biscuit. People, I hope everybody's doing good right now. Like I said, this is something that's real that needs to get out. And this is It's not about anything but getting the information out. Share it with everybody you can, and I'll try to check a few of these comments. If you want to make a few more, make as many as you want. Let's see. I don't even know where I'm at on this one. The truth is scary. Nightmare fuel. Yeah, it's going on. Let's see. We should go to Japan. Snake DNA. Let's see when you're going to decide again. In another day or so. They're going about every day. They want to see numbers of dead people is what they want to see before they actually say they're going to shut down a country. The country's going to shut itself down before they do. They want to be the last to do it. They don't want to be involved in it, even though it's their job. That will probably collapse the world completely. Well, the economy's going to go to crap. They've already said that. And even the United States economy is going down right now from the trading. Got to go, man. Keep spreading the word and keep healthy. Yep. And thank you for the link and put it up on a comment. Hold on, it's in Texas now. No, it's the one in Texas was flu B, unless they have confirmed something. But they were testing someone from that. It's normal to test them. It's not going to be good if they have it. Let's see. And U.S. investigating second suspected case of Chinese virus. Likely that guy. They're watching the tree, his contact tree, and then somebody put they broke it first. Well, break it everywhere. Tell it everywhere. Share this video. I'm trying to put up the most relevant videos, the newest ones I've seen. But really, I've got news on television. That was like the picture that I just put up in my community from last night. I'll put up another community picture maybe tonight. It's a thing that I do, and I put what they're saying on the news, and it's all over Twitter and Trucking Stuff 1 on there. So y'all stay safe. I'm gonna get off this thing. I'm out. Peace.